A thin mask as thin as a cicada's wing was lying quietly in the mold. At this step, the manufacturing process was almost over. Han Xiao finished the last few steps and was soon done. He reached out and pressed on it. The position of the electronic components felt slightly hard, but overall it felt very smooth. The surface of the mask was covered with a liquid crystal coating. When the finger pressed on it, a colorful halo would appear around the pressure point, just like the changes on a liquid crystal screen. You have created Artificial Intelligence Optical Mask. You have gained 5,000 EXP. The cost of this mask was close to 200,000 EXP. Han Xiao picked up the mask and put it on his face. It felt cool and refreshing to the touch. He walked in front of the mirror, reached out his finger, and pressed on the electronic device on his cheek. The facial features in the mirror suddenly changed into the face of an unfamiliar man. Han Xiao pressed a few more times and the facial features changed again. They were all completely different faces. This was not an ordinary human skin mask, but a mask that could change one's appearance at any time. It was a stealth artifact. The electronic components were entered into the facial simulation program, located at the key parts that determined the facial features of the face. Through the built-in database, the mask was like a screen, fitting the facial features, and the facial features were completely three-dimensional. The mask was very realistic. As long as the switch was pressed, the facial features could be randomly simulated. The artificial intelligence optical mask had a total of 4 functions. The first was simulation, which randomly changed the facial features. According to the program set by Han Xiao, the facial features would not jump out of the human category, and there was no need to worry about the appearance of an ancient god. The second function was memory, which could record 3 different facial features and could be replaced. The third function was reset, which could restore 3 different facial features at any time. There was no need to worry about losing the original disguise after the simulation. The fourth function was scan simulation, which could be hidden in the mask to quickly scan the face of a humanoid target and change it into the target's appearance. The similarity could reach 70 to 80%. It was a godly skill. Han Xiao played with it for a while, then took off the artificial intelligence optical mask and went to the headquarters to visit Gu Hui. "You created the artificial appearance mask?" Gu Hui asked. Han Xiao laughed and put on the mask. He had already memorized the face of the first person before he came. It was an ordinary-looking young man, and he did not reveal the mask's ability to change facial features in front of Gu Hui. This function was Han Xiao's trump card. Gu Hui looked at it and thought that Han Xiao was only wearing a human skin mask. Division 13 also knew how to make one, but it was not as realistic as Han Xiao's. Moreover, this mask was very light and seemed to be easier to carry around. "Are you interested in submitting the blueprint to the bureau?" Han Xiao laughed and said, "It's just a human skin mask. There's no need for a blueprint. Don't you guys know how to make your own?" Gu Hui agreed and did not insist. Han Xiao saw this and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had fooled them. Han Xiao quickly changed the topic. "Can I participate in the operation personally?" Gu Hui thought for a while and nodded. "The higher-ups have communicated with Hesla. Hesla's military intelligence department has decided to cooperate with us. This time, you will follow your team." The Dark Crow Valley base was located at the border of Hesla. Han Xiao guessed that Hesla would not reject him. After confirming that he would participate in the operation, Han Xiao suppressed his excitement and asked, "When will we depart?" "There's no rush. It takes time to mobilize the troop. Moreover, the General Staff Department has to come up with a specific strategy with Hesla. It will take at least half a month before we can depart." Half a month was enough for him to complete all the modifications. After returning to the studio, Han Xiao wrote down the main points of his work for the next half a month on a piece of paper. First, increase the number of blueprints for his trump cards. Second, purchase a vehicle for his team. As a logistics officer, he needed to provide equipment maintenance and supplies for his team. Therefore, he needed a logistics vehicle. Third, upgrade Zhang Wei's battler armor. This is a big project. Let's do it one by one. Han Xiao shook his head. First, he needed stronger combat power. He could consider the following aspect. First, defense. This was the aspect that he valued the most. Being able to survive was the most important thing. Long-range attack. This required more powerful firearms. 2 Berserk Eagles were barely enough. He only needed to upgrade them once. Close combat weapons. Although Han Xiao preferred long-range weapons, he still needed to prevent others from getting close to him. Lightweight mechanical arm needed to be modified. Mobility in harsh terrain. Cloud Swallow Glider had been gathering dust on the interface for a long time. Finally, it was time to put it to use. Lastly, attack power. He had to consider situations where he was surrounded or needed to be a troublemaker in a group battle. Therefore, he needed to use powerful means to break through the situation. Art was a good choice. Explosions were art. Han Xiao quickly came up with an idea. He quickly wrote down a list of materials and asked Feng Jun to go to the warehouse to collect them. This batch of materials was worth 300,000 yuan. It was very expensive. Feng Jun was getting more and more helpless with Han Xiao. He felt that he was going to become a babysitter. The orders from the higher-ups were to protect Han Xiao in all aspects. Han Xiao was very difficult to deal with. The higher-ups seemed to be very clear about this and gave him a better treatment as a form of consolation. What else could Feng Jun say? For a monthly salary of 25,000 yuan and 5 insurances and housing funds, he could only do it. Maybe this is what they mean by the greater the power, the greater the responsibility. Chapter 66. After the materials and parts were in place, Han Xiao praised Feng Jun as usual, saying things like, "Little comrade Feng Jun is very good at his job, and the party is very proud of him." After receiving more than 10 eye rolls, Han Xiaoxin was satisfied and went into seclusion. He took out the 2 Berserk Eagles and started to modify them. Basic weaponry and basic mechanical engineering, both increased by a few levels, and the effect was better than before. He also changed some parts and replaced them with better materials. Now that we're rich, the days of being poor are gone, and we can't go back. Let's just forget about the hard times and think about the sweet times. Han Xiao was very familiar with the modification of basic firearms, and it did not take long for him to complete the modification. Berserk Eagle, enhanced, quality. Green basic stats. Attack 74 to 87, fire rate 1. 5/S, magazine capacity 8, effective range 50 meters. Accuracy will be lost after exceeding 50 meters. Energy output level 45 prerequisite. LV3 precision shooting bonus stats, plus 2 DEX length. 0, 21 M weight, 4. 2 LB bonus ability. Recoil, strong recoil. Accuracy will be lost if STR is lower than 30. Bonus ability. Powerful kinetic energy. Within the range, there is a 10% chance of dealing 15 additional damage. Bonus ability. Dual shot. This firearm has been modified to be able to fire 2 bullets simultaneously. When using this effect, STR will be reduced by 20%. Remark. Do you think I won't recognize you if you change Sha to Berserk? With Han Zhao's current ability, he had a 30% to 40% chance of upgrading normal equipment to green grade. Both guns were green grade, but following that came the equipment requirement. Han Xiao realized that his precision shooting was only at level 1. Although it did not hinder him from using 2 guns, the power of the 2 guns would be greatly reduced, and he would not be able to enjoy the buffs of various skills. Shaking his head helplessly, Han Xiao used his experience to upgrade precision shooting to LV3 and added 3% to shooting correction and 4% to critical hit rate. Basic shooting has exceeded LV8, Precision Shooting, has reached LV3. Please choose one of the following 3 advanced skills: snipe, close-range gunfighting, or strafing. Han Xiao raised his eyebrows and fell into a dilemma. This was the first time he had hesitated to choose a skill. Shooting was the core skill of a cannon gunner, and it was also very important for a mechanic. These 3 paths clearly indicated different combat styles: sniper, melee gunner, and firepower. The Berserk Eagle was a close-range gun. Logically speaking, choosing close-range gunfighting would be the most cost-effective. However, Han Xiao still had to consider his future potential. In the future, long-range combat would be the strength of a mechanic. On the other hand, the thrilling gunfighting technique was the least useful. Firepower was more suitable for attacking and required teammates to provide support. Sniping was more suitable for solo operations. Han Xiao scratched his head and thought to himself, sooner or later, I'll have to act alone. The farther the distance, the safer I'll be. Players can choose to use gunfighting and strafing, but for me, sniping is the most suitable. In Han Xiao's previous life, gunfighting was very popular. It was elegant and dazzling. A few cannon gunner professional players in the previous seasons would also choose gunfighting to show off their skills. It looked so cool when they fought. However, Han Xiao was not interested in this. He was a pragmatist. Whether it was a black cat or a white cat, as long as it could act cute, it was a good cat. What was the use of looking cool when fighting? He did not need fans to cheer him on. What was the most suitable for him was the best. With that in mind, Han Technician no longer hesitated. He chose sniping and invested in the future. Advanced skill obtained. Sniping LV1. Fixed 4% critical point accuracy, increased 5% range. Done. Han Xiao nodded with satisfaction and moved on to the next task. The Cloud Swallow Glider was manufactured, and he received 1,500 EXP. Han Xiao added the folding technology from the retractable knife to it. This was the benefit of being able to truly understand the knowledge. He could apply the principles of other blueprints to other suitable machines. Normally, the Cloud Swallow Glider could be carried on his back like a parachute. Once it was activated, the 2-meter-long glider wings would extend and allow him to glide in the air. It was much better than the batsuit. Next, he needed to enhance his close combat ability. The mechanical arm and the mechanical leg were a complete set. They were both blueprints that could be developed from the same knowledge combination. In the future, they could form the most basic exoskeleton power armor. However, Han Xiao did not plan to make the mechanical leg. His current technology was not perfect yet. Even if he made the mechanical leg, it could only be used for long-distance travel. It could not be used for dodging in a small area. However, Han Xiao needed dodging ability the most, so he did not want to waste his EXP. Han Xiao decided to modify the mechanical arm first. The weight and size could be reduced. Reducing the size meant reducing the power. Therefore, Han Xiao planned to use another small device to enhance the power of the mechanical arm. Do you want to proceed with Knowledge Fusion, LV3 Basic Weaponry plus LV2 Basic Assembly plus LV2 Basic Mechanics? This fusion will cost you 15,000 EXP. Fusion successful. Congratulations on developing Air Pressure Oscillator. Yo, I succeeded on the first try. Han Xiao was slightly happy. There were many blueprints for this combination, and he had developed the one he needed on the first try. His luck was not bad, and he saved a lot of EXP. The air pressure oscillator's core principle was somewhat similar to an air gun, but it compressed air into vibrational force and released a direct hit to the inside of the object. It could ignore the defense of normal armor, but it was much less effective against anti-seismic objects. Han Xiao spent most of the day modifying the lightweight mechanical arm. He reduced the size of the mechanical arm, increased the length, and installed a platinum alloy outer armor to cover the internal components, greatly increasing the durability. The new mechanical arm looked a lot better overall. Its appearance was a shiny silver metal arm. Han Shao created the air pressure oscillator and installed it in the palm of the mechanical arm. He tested it a little and it worked well. Lightweight mechanical arm, left. Oscillator modified grade. White basic attributes. Attack 30 to 48, defense 10 to 13, power level 33, durability 470 equipment requirement, 24 STR bonus attribute, -2 ATK SPD length, 0. 87 meters, left palm to shoulder, weight, 11. 4 pounds additional effect, plus 7 STR judgment additional ability. Oscillation, equipped with an air pressure oscillator that can release an oscillation attack on the target through contact, dealing 23 to 45 damage, ignores armor other than anti-seismic. Automatically collects air to recharge. Can be used once every 15 seconds. Additional ability. Impact resistance. External armor is made of platinum alloy, which increases durability and does not wear out easily. Note: it's a normal style modification. Although it was only white grade, because Han Shao had installed the accessories, there were 3 additional effects. These few equipment modifications were considered normal, but the equipment that Han Shao was going to create next could be said to be equipment that was truly exclusive to mechanics. Han Shao took a deep breath and thought to himself, Amit Ba, Lord Taishang has given the order. God bless me, I have to fuse that blueprint in one go. I don't want to do it a second time. It's really a waste of experience. Do you want to proceed with Knowledge Fusion, LV2 Advanced Material Synthesis plus LV2 Basic Electromagnetic Theory plus LV2 Basic Assembly? This fusion will cost 70,000 EXP. Chapter 67. The experience points required to fuse the higher level of knowledge would soar. Taking the basic knowledge fusion as an example, if he added an advanced knowledge, he would need to spend 50,000 more experience points. The cost of the basic knowledge would also double, from 5,000 to 10,000, and so on. If he added advanced knowledge into the advanced knowledge fusion, the cost would also double. Fusion confirmed. Han Shao stared at the interface. He had to maintain his previous luck. Fusion successful. Congratulations on developing magnetically controlled metal extendable armor. Han Shao was overjoyed. What did I say? My bloodline is really lucky recently. However, Han Shao looked at his luck attribute, and his smile gradually disappeared. How long would it take to recover all the luck that he had spent this time? This blueprint was his goal. It was not something that he should have at his current level. It was a piece of equipment that exceeded his level. It could increase his safety level by 2 levels. Out of the 300,000 materials, 250,000 were prepared for this blueprint. Advanced blueprints were several times more difficult than basic blueprints. Even though Han Shao had the knowledge of blueprints and blueprints, it took him an hour to sort out the contents of the blueprint. He calculated the time required to create it and smiled bitterly. It would take him at least 3 days. Needless to say, Han Shao threw himself into the difficult task of creating the blueprint. 3 days later, the door of the workshop opened. Han Shao, who was in seclusion, walked out. His eyes were lifeless, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He had a look of, who am I? Where am I? Who's hitting me? He was at a loss. As soon as he turned on his phone, Li Yilin called and complained. Han Shao, why couldn't I reach you these few days? There are dozens of orders for agents, and they are all urging you to ship them. You can't just accept the deposit and not do anything. I vouched for you with my reputation. Also, you promised to tailor a piece of equipment for me last time. Don't forget. Oh right, the higher-ups gave us a mission yesterday. We have to depart to Hesla in 10 days. The captain was very angry when you were not in the meeting yesterday. You have to be careful when you see him next time. Han Zhao's eyelids felt heavy. He didn't want to do anything but sleep. He rolled up the quilt and rolled onto the bed. As soon as his head touched the pillow, he immediately fell into a deep sleep. Leah Lynn kept calling him on the phone, but he didn't wake up. Hey, why aren't you saying anything? Damn it, I haven't settled the score with you for touching me last time. What's the first thing you do when you wake up? Open my eyes? No, she was going to the toilet. Early the next morning, Han Shao drifted to the toilet as if he was sleepwalking. In a daze, he peed a mouthful of water before he completely woke up. He shivered and felt comfortable all over. Han Shao yawned and mechanically brushed her teeth and washed her face. Her eyes were drooping as she slowly opened the door of the repair shop. She went straight to the kitchen and pushed Lu Qian aside. Under Lu Qian's little fists, she calmly finished her breakfast. Under Lu Qian's resentful gaze, Han Shao slowly walked back to his own studio. Old man Lu rubbed his bald head and sighed. He's just like me when I was young. How carefree. I want to change my keys. Old man Lu pondered. Maybe this is the love of young people. Of course not. Lu Qian roared like a lioness. Han Shao returned to his studio and took out the result of 3 days of seclusion. It was a small box of thin metal pieces that looked like fish scales. It was pitch black with a hint of dark blue. No matter how one looked at it, this box of metal pieces had nothing to do with the word armor. However, this thing was indeed a magnetically controlled metal extended armor. It was not complete. Han Shao took a deep breath and placed his palm on top of the metal pieces. It was only 3 centimeters away. He activated the energy in his body, and a numbing magnetic energy covered his palm. A magical change happened. The silent metal pieces suddenly trembled and gathered on their own. They were attracted to Han Zhao's palm. Like lively fish, they swam on Han Zhao's arm. Han Shao let out a low roar, and his energy flowed through his entire arm. These thin metal pieces spread out in the blink of an eye, turning into a thin, fish scale-like armor that fit perfectly without any gaps or overlap. The metal pieces looked like they were attached to his arm, but in reality, they were floating a few millimeters away from his skin. They were controlled by the magnetic field and did not affect his movement. Han Shao took out his platinum battle knife and slashed at the thin armor. There was a crisp sound, but there were no sparks. The thin armor was not damaged at all. Excellent defense. Han Shao was overjoyed. Magnetically controlled metal extended armor, incomplete. Type: extensible full-body bulletproof vest quality. Green basic stats. 75 defense, 0. 2 square meters of full coverage, about the size of the entire back. Durability 1600 equipment requirements. Magnetic energy intermediate machinery affinity effect. Through energy magnetic induction, the metal pieces of the armor can move around the entire body through the magnetic field. It can form armor on any part of the body. It takes 10 energy/minute to maintain the shape of the armor. Additional ability: super tough, high temperature, radiation, and penetration resistance. It can protect the human body effectively and is not easily damaged. Additional ability: repulsive bond. The damage received by the user will be reduced by 20 to 30 points for the second time. Additional ability: special magnetic field. When used, it will form a layer of magnetic field that can conduct electricity. Remarks: a friendly reminder. Please do not use this equipment in stormy weather. Equipment that required energy was called super equipment, and this magnetically controlled retractable armor was exclusive equipment for mechanics. Super equipment was a big category. Its main feature was that it was powered by energy. Generally speaking, its effect was much stronger than normal machinery of the same level. The original material of these metal pieces was a very conductive and magnetic metal. Furthermore, it was not an alloy but a very rare metal ore. It was very expensive, and even Division 13 did not have many in stock. Han Shao had spent 250,000 to make these metal pieces that could cover his entire back. The core of this equipment was advanced material synthesis. It was relatively simple to use electromagnetism, so basic electromagnetism only required level 2 to fulfill the requirement. The principle was to fuse the magnetic fields of these metal pieces into a magnetic chain. The materials looked separate, but the magnetic fields could be fused together at any time. This was one of the principles that made the armor different from other random shape. The most difficult part was the material synthesis of these metal pieces. The work was tedious and repetitive, and it took Han Shao 3 days to complete. However, this blueprint was one of the easier ones among the advanced level blueprint. Han Zhao's current level, knowledge, and skills were not high enough. He could only barely create the advanced level equipment, and it was not complete either. Completing this equipment gave him 40,000 EXP, which was more than the first generation of Ranger. Han Shao controlled the magnetically controlled metal extended armor around his body. It was a little awkward, but he soon got used to it. Many advanced level equipment required practice before it could be used properly. This was a reflection of one's skill level. Han Shao was experienced enough, so he could use it at expert level. With the magnetically controlled metal extended armor, Han Zhao's safety was guaranteed. Furthermore, the magnetically controlled metal extended armor was very well hidden. When not in use, it was kept in a small box with holes and hung behind his back. With the cover of his clothes, it would not be discovered. It was secretive, easy to use, and portable. Han Shao would not reveal his trump card so easily, even if he told his own people. Who knew if his own people would become his enemies one day? He had always thought that mild paranoia and paranoia was caution. Ranged, close combat, movement, and defense were all settled. All that was left was art. Chapter 68. 60 fist-sized glossy black spherical bombs were neatly stacked in 2 weapon boxes. These were the time delay fragmentation grenades that Han Shao had bought from Division 13. From this crappy name, Han Shao knew that the explosive power of these bombs was not to be underestimated. One bomb cost 800 aquamarine dollars, and 60 cost 48,000 aquamarine dollars. The bombs were ready-made, and Han Shao had only modified them. Using basic mechanical engineering, he had installed a mini propeller on the bombs. The propeller was powered by a LV5 battery, and it had temporary power. There was no need to throw it manually, and it could fly automatically, greatly increasing the attack range. However, the design was a little weird. Han Shao had experimented with it a few times, and the image of a round-headed blue raccoon would always appear in his mind. Face simulator, enhanced berserk eagle pistols, lightweight mechanical arm, foldable platinum battle knife, cloud swallow glider, magnetically controlled retractable armor, and 60-time delay high explosive grenade. Han Zhao's equipment had been completely upgraded, and he could even get a variety of miscellaneous items from Division 13. At his current level, he was already a set of demigod equipment. This equipment is more than enough for now. Han Shao crossed out personal equipment upgrade from his to-do list, and the next item was the vehicle. It would take too long to build a vehicle on its own, so it was better to just buy it and modify it. After choosing for a long time, Han Shao decided on the type of vehicle. A heavy truck with a detachable cargo compartment that could be used as a mobile warehouse or workshop. It would also be used as the logistics vehicle for his team. Han Shao bought the vehicle from Division 13 directly. The products from the military factory were definitely of high quality. He had 2 choices. One was to buy it with money, and the other was to exchange for it with reputation points, which meant that Division 13 would give it to him. After calculating his funds, Han Shao was left with about 2,800,000 aquamarine dollars. It had only been a few days, but the mechanic class's ability to spend money like water was starting to show. If Han Xiao did not know how to make money, he would not have been able to afford it. If Han Xiao was not used to being a good mechanic, he would not be able to become a good mechanic. Han Xiao chose to exchange for it with reputation points, which cost him 150 Division 13 contribution points. If he had spent money, it would have cost him more than 800,000 aquamarine dollars. Han Xiao asked Feng Jun to help him with the application. Give me the vehicle. How long will it take? I need to get a car from the military factory. It'll take about 2 hours. As it turned out, Feng Jun was a punctual person. He drove a heavy truck over with a stopwatch. So here's the problem. Don't worry, it's impossible for a blue shit excavator to appear here. Cough cough, here came the problem. The truck was too big to park in the maintenance shop. No matter how much he thought about it, he missed out on this. This was very embarrassing. The two of them stared at each other in the alley of the repair shop. What do we do now? Why don't you help me expand it again? Forget it, the engineering department doesn't have that much free time. Han Xiao scratched his chin and his eyes lit up. Didn't you bring a team to monitor this area? Where is your base? Be more rational, you bastard. Do you think we're not showy enough? Han Xiao sized up the military heavy truck. It was 4 meters tall and 3.5 meters wide. Behind the truck was an enlarged cargo compartment that he had specifically requested. It was 11 meters long and was even wider than the front of the truck. How is it showy? I don't think so. Han Xiao's face was not red and he was not panting. Feng Jun directly spat saliva on Han Xiao's face. Only a blind person can't see such a big truck. Why are you spitting saliva when you're talking? Han Xiao grabbed Feng Jun's sleeve and wiped his face. With a look of disdain, he said, "It's not that I want to say this, but your saliva is a bit too much." At this time, Old Man Lu walked out and exclaimed, "Wow, what a big truck!" Han Xiao's eyes lit up. "Why don't we flatten the repair shop? Get out of here!" Old Man Lu unhappily scolded. He rubbed his bald head and thought for a while. Then, he took out a key from his pocket and threw it to Han Xiao. "I have a garage a few streets away. I'll lend it to you." Han Xiao was surprised. "How generous, Old Man Lu. Did you take the wrong medicine today? Go play somewhere else." Old Man Lu scolded. He pushed the two people blocking the alley away and walked away leisurely. Han Xiao drove and arrived at the garage 10 minutes later. "Blurg, hey, do you have to go that far?" Ma Jie's face was pale. He was holding on to the car window, vomiting and waving his hands frantically. Han Xiao did not know what Feng Jun meant. Was he saying that he would never sit in his car again? Or was he saying that he did not need to care about his feelings? Han Xiao shook his head and threw this irrelevant question to the back of his mind. After sending off the wobbly Feng Jun, he began to modify the military truck. He checked the truck from front to back. There were no bugs or cameras. The quality of the products from the military factory was reliable. The interior was constructed with 10 cylinders, turbochargers, and other equipment to increase horsepower. The truck could reach a maximum speed of 135 kilometers per hour. There were 5 wheels on each side, and all of them were large and thick anti-skid and wear-resistant tires. The cargo compartment was large enough to fit a lot of equipment. Han Xiao planned to modify it into a small workshop, so he needed to move the equipment from the workshop. The chassis was specially designed for off-road use. It was equipped with spring suspension and air suspension, so it could be driven safely in harsh terrain. It was also equipped with a drill protection device to prevent small vehicles from drilling into the chassis. The scenes in movies where the protagonist drove a sports car and drilled into a truck's crotch and fought a battle of wits and courage with the villain would never happen. Wait, why did he automatically put himself in the shoes of the villain? The cab was not cramped at all. There was more than enough space for 6 people. It was equipped with a multi-gear transmission. There were 10 gears, so the shifting was smooth and the brakes were in good condition. Han Xiao checked the airbags. There were 8 in total. As long as he did not fly out during a collision, he would not be hurt. He could even feel the pleasure of being stuffed in a big chest. Speaking of collision, the front of the truck did not have a reinforced bumper, so he had to install it manually. Han Xiao looked at the windshield again. He did not cut corners. It was bulletproof. Overall, it was in line with the rules. There was no need for major changes. Han Xiao decided to install a few nitrogen cylinders for acceleration. The heavy truck was equipped with nitrogen acceleration. It was exciting just thinking about it. As long as it did not leak, it would be better than a road hog. Han Xiao started the modification. The cargo compartment had been turned into a small workshop. The chassis and bumper had been reinforced, and the thick armor looked very sturdy. For nitrogen accelerator cylinders were installed inside the cargo compartment so that it could charge forward when necessary. Han Xiao had also bought some spare tires and installed a small radar antenna on the roof of the vehicle to receive radio signals and transmit Wi-Fi. The total cost was more than 100,000 yuan. Han Xiao shook his head helplessly. Modifying a vehicle was such a waste. Looking at the black heavy truck in front of him, Han Xiao scratched his chin. He suddenly felt that it was a good idea to give the truck a name. With a huge body and a dark appearance, a very reasonable name jumped into his mind. Big Black. Chapter 69. Oh my God, Brother Xiao, you bought a heavy truck? The 4 teammates were invited to the garage. Li Yilin and Lin Yao were excited as they climbed up and down the truck. Lambert was very interested in the engine, so he opened the hood and admired it. Zhang Wei came to Han Zhao's side and said, "Thank you." A logistics vehicle was a luxury for a small team. Zhang Wei felt embarrassed that Han Xiao had paid for it himself. Han Xiao laughed. "Just think of it as me helping the needy." Zhang Wei's mouth twitched. He was speechless. Although what he said was true, why did his honesty make him feel so uncomfortable? I racked my brains and came up with a name for this car. Zhang Wei's ears perked up. Han Xiao moistened his throat and said seriously, "Big Black." Zhang Wei's foot slipped and he forced a smile. Good name. You think so too, right? Catchy and to the point. I admire myself. Han Xiao clicked his tongue. As long as you're happy. The driver's seat is so big. Li Yilin was having a lot of fun. Suddenly, she thought of something and asked, "Who's going to drive?" Han Xiao said, "This is my car. Of course, I'll be the one driving." Li Yilin's face turned pale. She remembered the fear of being controlled by Han Xiao. She trembled and said, Can I not sit?" Zhang Wei frowned and scolded. "Han Xiao is spending money to let us enjoy the convenience. Why are you refusing?" Li Yilin's face was ashen. She muttered, "You'll regret it." Regret? Zhang Wei didn't understand what Li Yilin meant. Was she saying that Han Zhao's driving skills were terrible? What was so bad about that? How bad could his driving skills be? They were all well-trained agents with excellent physical fitness. They wouldn't even faint on a roller coaster ride. What was there to be afraid of? Zhang Wei didn't think so. "By the way, our superiors told us that we will be leaving in 4 days, Lin Yao suddenly said. Han Zhao's eyes flashed. He had spent around 10 days to fully modify his body. Originally, he had wanted to install a turret on the heavy truck. He had even learned the knowledge, but unfortunately, there was not enough time. He thought for a moment and said to Zhang Wei, "Bring the war armor over. I will help you modify it." Zhang Wei's eyes lit up. He was very confident in Han Zhao's mechanical abilities. Hearing this, Li Yilin immediately jumped over and shook Han Zhao's shoulder. "What about me? What about me? Didn't you promise to tailor equipment for me?" she asked. "Let's talk about it when I have the inspiration." Han Xiao pushed the chattering Li Yilin away. "As a martial artist, you should use your fists to beat people up. Why do you keep thinking about my machines? The prototype of the war armor was quickly sent over. It was like the armor in a museum. It was supported by a plastic skeleton and placed in a metal box that was as tall as a person. The logistics personnel were the salted fish from the logistics department. Han Xiao said, "Time is limited. I am going to do the most necessary modifications. First, I will increase the upper limit of the energy efficiency. Then, I will change the power mode. I will reduce the load and fill the endoskeleton with mechanical power to help you move." That's great. Zhang Wei's face lit up. The armor was too heavy. Every time he used it, his back would ache and his legs would cramp. It was more tiring than running 10,000 meters. After that, I will install a simple chip in your armor to detect the situation outside. I will also give you a set of fire control system that will allow your long-range weapons to aim automatically. If time allows, I will equip you with a set of simple melee weapons. Okay. Zhang Wei was overjoyed. He had completely turned into a salted fish that was shouting 666. Han Xiao suddenly changed the topic. Of course, all of this will be charged. The total is 360,000 yuan. How much? Zhang Wei's heart sank. He only had less than 1,000,000 yuan in savings. You think it's expensive? Han Xiao glanced at him. Zhang Wei hurriedly nodded. Are your parents still alive? Zhang Wei was stunned. Why are you asking this? They are all dead. Do you have any siblings? I am the only son in my family. Do you have a wife or a girlfriend? No, I am alone. Han Xiao tilted his head and had a strange look on his face. Then why are you saving money? Thousands of arrows pierced the heart. Huff. Stop talking, I will pay. Zhang Wei painfully clutched his chest. He felt like his heart was being attacked by 100,000 rhinoceroses. Han Xiao would not act until he saw the hair. After receiving the advance payment from Zhang Wei, he started to modify the prototype of the wearer armor. Basic Energy Theory Level 3. Han Xiao had the technology to strengthen the power of the energy source. He did not want to modify Zhang Wei's armor, so he did not want to create a new energy source blueprint. Of course, he would keep the good stuff for himself. He could use blueprints for the power frame and detection chip. These two types were more common. Do you wish to proceed with knowledge fusion? LV. 1 basic wide area sensing plus LV. 2 basic virtual electronics. This fusion will cost you 10,000 EXP. Do you wish to proceed with knowledge fusion? LV 2 basic mechanical theory plus LV 4 basic mechanical engineering. This fusion will cost you 10,000 EXP. Fusion successful. Congratulations on developing the low-level smart chip. Fusion successful. Congratulations on developing K600 power endoskeleton. These were 2 very common mechanical blueprints. It could be said that they were blueprints that most mechanics would have. Han Xiao was not surprised that he was able to fuse them in one go. Low-level smart chip was also sold on the market. The difference was that after unlocking the blueprints, Han Xiao could make it himself and program it as he wished. Seeing the word low-level, Han Xiao knew that there would be a higher-level version of this blueprint in the future. The high-level AI of large robots or the system that controlled vehicles or battleships were all high-level versions of this blueprint. The K600 Power Endoskeleton was one of the basic models of the Power Endoskeleton series. The Power Endoskeleton was worn directly on the body, and the Power Endoskeleton was the internal power structure of the full-body armor. It was hidden inside the armor and functioned similar to the Power Endoskeleton, providing extra power. The Power Endoskeleton was a prerequisite to creating power armors. It was not hard to guess the more advanced applications: small mechanical armors, medium mechanical armors, large mechanical armors, very large mechanical armors, and so on. Han Shao took apart the outer armor of the combatant and exposed the intricate components inside. Han Shao sized it up for a while before starting to work. First, he increased the power of the power source. Then, he built the frame, made the processing chip, and bought some cameras, detectors, and red heat sensors as detection equipment. On the morning of the fourth day, he finally finished modifying the combatant armor. The exterior was still black and heavy, but the interior was like sh*T. He finally had the prototype of a power armor. However, there was not enough time to make melee weapons, so Han Shao gave up. It was normal to take money but not do anything. He had even put the order for the high-explosive ammunition on hold for half a month. Han Shao yawned and looked at the interface. Combatant armor derivation progress, 2%. Reverse engineering blueprints was one of the ways for mechanics to obtain blueprint. The requirements were very strict. Usually, when one was stuck at a certain point, they would be prompted with prerequisite. For example, when the research was at 30%, an intelligence requirement greater than XX requirement would suddenly pop up. Only after that could the research continue. Even if the research was full, a large amount of EXP would be required to learn the blueprint. The core of the combatant armor was the mechanic class advanced knowledge, heavy mechanical modification. This prerequisite would probably pop up when the research was at 50%. The combatant armor blueprint was not a necessity for Han Shao, so he did not bother with it. Today was the day of departure. The team of 4 gathered in the garage. Lin Yao looked at the computer and suddenly said, "We've gathered at the Eastern Sentry Post." "Okay, get in the car," Zhang Wei said with a deep voice. As soon as he finished speaking, Li Yilin rushed to the driver's seat at lightning speed. She stared at Han Shao nervously and said, Can I drive?" Han Shao rubbed his eyes. He had stayed up for a few days and was so sleepy that he felt like he was going to ascend to heaven. Therefore, he did not insist. He told Li Yilin to drive steadily and walked to the cargo compartment. He took a few backpacks and used them as blankets before lying down to sleep. Li Yilin heaved a sigh of relief. She felt like she had just escaped death. She did not even have the strength to complain that Han Shao had the guts to ask her to drive steadily. Seeing that Han Shao was going to sleep, the rest of them sat in the driver's seat and did not disturb Han Shao. West Capital, Eastern Sentry Post, Military Train Station. The higher-ups attached great importance to the attack on the Dark Crow Valley base. This time, Division 13 had sent 3 secret operations teams to participate in this large-scale joint operation. One was Zhang Wei's team, and the other was Ma Qinyang's team. They were the team that Zhang Wei had rescued. The last team was the ace team of the Secret Operations Department, Di Su Su's team. She was the team leader. At this time, the 2 secret operations teams were waiting at the train station. Next to them was an officer from the General Staff Department. He would be the advisor and supervisor to control the operations of the secret operations team. There were precedents in the past. Every secret operations team was made up of elite agents with strong opinions. It was easy for them to have disagreements during operations, and they would act separately. In the end, accidents would occur during the mission. In order to deal with such situations, Division 13 had adjusted their personnel strategy. When there were multiple teams working together, a member of the General Staff Department would be assigned to oversee the overall situation. The officers of the General Staff Department would study all kinds of battlefield commanding knowledge throughout the year. Before a mission, they would gather information about the team members and come up with strategies for the operation. Although the secret operations team members all agreed that the staff officers were useless except for writing battle reports and carrying the blame, the rules were rules. As long as the staff officers did not interfere, everyone would be safe. Why isn't Zhang Wei here yet? What time is it? Ma Qinyang looked up at the sun and took a puff of his cigarette. He had a good relationship with Zhang Wei, and the relationship between the two teams was also good. Di Su Su was waiting on the other side with her team. She was playing with a coin in her hand. She was looking forward to meeting Li Yilin. She was excited to be able to bully Li Yilin again. She was also very curious about Li Yilin's new teammate, the mechanic named Han Xiao. Qi Baijia rubbed his beautiful eyebrows. His eyes were hurt by the reflection of the coin. He had no choice but to turn his face away. The rumbling sound of an engine could be heard from afar. Just by listening to the sound, one could imagine the immense power of the engine. Even through his boots, he could feel the slight trembling of the ground. Qi Baijia looked towards the source of the sound. A ferocious-looking, huge military-modified heavy truck was slowly approaching. Ma Qingyang threw away his cigarette and extinguished it with the tip of his foot. Di Su Su clenched her hand and caught the coin in her palm. Qi Baijia raised his hand and adjusted his collar. Chapter 70. Dehe slowly came to a stop. Zhang Wei and the other three alighted from the carriage. "I'm Qi Baijia, the officer leading the team this time." Qi Baijia had a solemn expression on his face as he saluted, looking valiant and heroic. "Hello, it's a pleasure to work with you." Zhang Wei nodded. He turned around and gave Ma Qingyang a big hug. Lin Yao's eyes lit up when he saw Di Su Su. He couldn't retract his hands from Di Su Su's body. He waved his hands shyly and greeted her. "Sister Su Su." "Little Lin Lin." Di Su Su ignored Lin Yao and walked past him. She walked in front of Li Yilin with a smile on her face. She pinched Li Yilin's cheeks and said, "You've become prettier since we last met." "Get lost. I don't know you that well." Li Yilin frowned and slapped Di Su Su's hand away. Di Su Su didn't care. She glanced around and asked curiously, "Where's your mechanic? Where is he?" Li Yilin crossed her arms and didn't answer. Zhang Wei answered, "He's a little tired. He's sleeping in the car." "This car is our logistics vehicle." After Zhang Wei said this, he straightened his back and looked proud. Ma Qingyang and Di Su Su's team members were envious. They looked at their team leaders with resentment. "We want a logistics car too." Qi Baijia clapped his hands and said, "All right, it's getting late. Let's go." A military train was parked at the station. This time, they were not taking a plane and were going by land. There were 40 field personnel accompanying them. They were all well-trained soldiers. They were busy moving boxes of ammunition and guns onto the train. Since most of the roads had been abandoned, the Six Nations had developed railways. The military train was faster than the civilian train and would reach the destination in 3 days. The first 5 carriages were the driver's cabin, 2 living rooms, a dining room, and a gun storage. The last few carriages were open-air carriages used to transport vehicles. Li Yilin drove Dehe onto the train. The soldiers locked Dehe onto the train and covered it with a dust-proof cloth to prevent it from being blown away by the wind. After everyone boarded the train, the military train rumbled away and drove out of the eastern sentry post. Under the scorching sun, it went deep into the desolate and dangerous wilderness. Han Xiao felt a vibration in his sleep and woke up. The lights installed on the top of the cargo compartment emitted a soft white light 24 hours a day, illuminating the space around him. All he could see were cold machines of various shapes, but they gave him a sense of security. Han Xiao pressed his thumb and index finger on his Jingming acupoint and rubbed it a few times. Only then did he wake up. He opened the door of the cargo compartment and found himself on a high-speed train. The oncoming wind rolled up his messy hair, and the deck under his feet was shaking non-stop. The sound of the train rushing into his ears, and the military train was moving along the tracks. The stars in the sky were scattered, and the moonlight shrouded the sky. In the distance there were mountains and hills, and wild grass was everywhere. "I slept all day?" Han Xiao was stunned for a moment. Following the light, he walked into the carriage in front. Before that, he put on the face simulator and adjusted it to the first memory of an ordinary young man. After thinking for a while, he put on another face mask. Needless to say, that was how scheming he was. After entering the carriage, the sound of the wind disappeared, and the sound of people talking hit him in the face. He suddenly had the illusion that he had returned from the barbaric era to the civilized era. When Han Shao walked in, everyone immediately stopped talking. Pairs of eyes gathered on Han Shao with curiosity and scrutiny. Di Su Su was the first to stand up. She swayed her slim waist and walked in front of Han Shao. With a face full of curiosity, she asked, "You are Han Shao?" "You have the wrong person," Han Shao casually replied. "If I answer whatever you ask, won't I lose face?" Everyone's face stiffened. "Who are you trying to lie to? Everyone is in the carriage, who else can you be?" Di Su Su's face stiffened. She just wanted to use this as an excuse, but she did not expect Han Shao to reply like this. For a moment, she did not know what to say. When Li Yilin saw that the scheming girl was defeated, she immediately felt good. She waved her hand and said, "Brother Shao, come sit here." Han Shao nodded and sat beside Zhang Wei and the others. Li Yilin immediately whispered to Han Shao, "Well done. You made the scheming girl lose face." Sex hormones? Han Shao was stunned. A girl with such a slutty name? That's her, Di Su Su. A despicable and unreasonable woman. Li Yilin gritted her teeth. Han Shao narrowed his eyes and said, "Why do I feel like you are describing yourself?" Lin Yao agreed, but he did not dare to say anything. He was afraid of being beaten. He secretly looked at Han Shao with admiration. As expected of Brother Shao, he was not afraid at all. He said whatever he wanted. So cool. Di Su Su saw that Li Yilin and Han Shao seemed to be intimate. Her face changed, and a trace of anger flashed in her eyes. Ma Qingyang, who was standing at the side, extended his hand and smiled. "Brother, this is the first time we have met. I am Ma Qingyang." Han Shao took Li Yilin's 720-degree waist rotation and shook hands with him naturally. He said, "Strictly speaking, we have not met before." Ma Qingyang was stunned. He looked at Han Zhao's mask and did not know whether to laugh or cry. "You are right." Qi Baijia clapped his hands and said, "All right, everyone is here. Let me tell you the details of this operation. The field personnel can leave for a moment." The field personnel knew that this was the rule, so they left the carriage. The environment immediately quieted down, leaving only the 3 secret operation teams and Qi Baijia. Qi Baijia coughed lightly, took out a stack of information, and spread out a map on the table. "This operation is a joint operation between us and Hesla's intelligence department. Hesla's army is stationed at the border and can be deployed at any time. Our mission is to infiltrate the enemy's defenses and provide intelligence support to the army." This is the map sent by Hesla. Dark Crow Valley is easy to defend and difficult to attack. The dense forest makes it impossible to detect the location of the base through aerial photography. The enemy's military strength and location are unknown, so we can only invade from the ground. When it came to the mission, everyone became serious. Di Su Su tapped her forehead with her finger and frowned. "It sounds like a heavily guarded fortress. Can't Hesla's army invade from the ground?" Qi Baijia shook his head. "They are not willing to. Hesla's style was to prioritize profit. If they could contribute 20% of their strength, they would not put in 30% of their effort. Before the situation was clear, they would not allow the army to set foot in unexplored areas. This was to prevent accidental losses. The Covert Operations Department was responsible for such high-risk missions, where they would take the lead and enter the enemy's territory. Li Yilin snorted softly. She did not want to show any weakness. She quickly asked, "Then, where is the breakthrough?" Qi Baijia tapped on the map. "West of Dark Crow Valley, there is a large rogue settlement called Dark Crow Forest. Dark Crow Forest Town dared to be built near the Germinal Organization base. This proves that the two parties are secretly in cahoots. There may be spies from the Dark Crow Valley base. Therefore, this is the breakthrough, and there is a chance to obtain intelligence. According to the intelligence, there are 3 people to be careful of in the Dark Crow Valley base. Chi Bai Jia took out the documents and distributed them. Seeing that everyone was browsing with their heads lowered, he concisely said, Head Supervisor Pan Kwang, male, 35 years old, Asian, grade E+ pugilist, executive officer of the Germinal Organization. His weapon is a sword, nicknamed Sword Soul. His most recent achievement was 3 years ago, when he single-handedly killed 12 Theseus agents at the border of Theseus. 4 of them were superhumans. The information showed an expressionless man. He looked ordinary, but there was a fierce aura about him. Not to be messed with, everyone thought at the same time. Deputy Supervisor GG, male, 29 years old, mixed race. There is very little information about him. We only know that he seems to be related to the leader of the Wind Eye Organization, Gino. Guard Captain Doman, 43 years old, from Shanner, good at using all kinds of firearms. He is a super elite agent and once led a night owl team. Ma Qing-yang was puzzled. Didn't you say that you don't know the internal situation of the Dark Crow Valley base? Where did this detailed information come from? Everyone had the same question. Chi Bai Jia shook his head. I'm not sure. The higher-ups said that this is confidential. Everyone nodded and did not ask any more questions. Han Xiao scratched his ear. The source of the confidential information is sitting right beside you, comrades. Chi Bai Jia continued to talk about some things to take note of. Then, he changed the topic and said, For this joint operation, Hesla has also sent a small team of military intelligence agents. When we arrive at the location, they will move together with us. Zhang Wei's face twitched. 2 agents working together? Chi Bai Jia coughed awkwardly. Yes. Isn't this troublesome? Hesla was not satisfied with the information they had on Stardragon. It was obvious that they did not want to contribute themselves. That was why they requested for Division 13 to send agents to participate in the operation. Everyone looked at each other. The relationship between the 2 countries was not very good. The agents were also hostile to each other. They felt that this mission was going to be a scam. The information was not useful to Han Xiao. Han Xiao yawned and looked out of the car window. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed. He interrupted the discussion and shouted, Beast attack! Chapter 71. The train shook violently, and the source of the vibration came from the carriage at the back. The Secret Service agents barely managed to stand still. They quickly looked out of the window and were shocked. Under the night sky, a huge black worm was entangled in the back of the carriage, circling around it again and again. Its body was dozens of meters long, and the surface of its body was pitch-black chitin shell. It was shiny and reflected the moonlight, looking sinister and strange. The worm's head was the mouth of the worm, and circles of sharp teeth went deep into its throat. At that moment, this giant worm was chewing on the iron shell of the carriage, tearing a hole in it. A field agent was swallowed by it in one gulp, and his scream lasted for only a short while before he was crushed into minced meat by the mouth of sharp teeth. Han Xiao shuddered, and the bold idea that just came to him suddenly disappeared without a trace. Chi Bai Jia's expression changed. Black earthworm. Han Xiao took out the berserk eagle from behind his waist and fired a shot at the black worm. He then looked at the combat information on the interface and immediately felt his lower body tighten. Black earthworm level, 48 profession, childhood level 10/youth, level 10/prime, level 10/estrus, level 10/LV8 age, 71 attributes, STR80DX? Endurance? Intelligence? Mystery? Charm 1, Luck 2 energy, 0 energy rank. Health points. Abilities: thick chitin shell, defense plus 20, darkness, dark environment attribute plus 15%, large body, health plus 1000, critical hit rate reduced by 20%, iron chew, additional 25% damage to metal, thin earth dragon bloodline, health plus 2000, abnormal resistance plus 10%, skills, entanglement level 7, earth walk level 10, spinning bite level 6, strong acid spit level 5? Even a beast is luckier than me. Who can I reason with? Fire! The Secret Service agents all pulled out their pistols and fired back. The gunshots were deafening, and the bullets bounced off the thick carapace of the black earthworm, but they did not cause much damage. Blue Star's wilderness was extremely dangerous. All kinds of ferocious beasts ran amok. In history, there were many tragedies of beasts massacring cities. Humans relied on the power of collective intelligence to barely climb to the top of the food chain. The black earthworm had a long lifespan, and its body length continued to increase with age. It was originally a gentle creature that lived in the dark. It usually slept underground and rarely moved, unless it was awakened by a huge vibration from the ground above its head. Everyone immediately understood that the passing train must have woken up the giant black worm. In order to avoid encountering wild beasts, every railway was specially equipped with maintenance personnel. Every once in a while, they would use all kinds of equipment to check the road conditions, including underground life detectors that could detect black earthworms. If this black earthworm did not arrive after the previous check, then the maintenance personnel were just being lazy. The field agents who were treated as prey panicked and pulled out their pistols to fight back. However, the small caliber of the pistols was not even enough to tickle the black earthworm, which had more than 100 defense points. All the bombs and high-powered firearms were placed in the storage compartment, and the compartment that was attacked by the black earthworm was right in the middle. The agents could not get their hands on the weapons, and the situation was very dangerous. The situation was chaotic. The wind swept through the compartment, and some of the debris was thrown out of the hole and into the wind by the high-speed train. The train was tilted at a 15-degree angle, and the friction between the chassis and the track was ear-piercing. A series of sparks flew, and it looked like it would be overturned by the black earthworm's huge weight at any time. "Get out of the way!" Li Yilin shouted and jumped up. She pulled out her retractable saber and slashed at the black earthworm's shell with a bright yellow flame aura. Crack! A clear crack appeared on the worm's shell. It worked. Pugilists were able to maximize the destructive power of their energy. Their punches and kicks had great strength, and in this situation, it was actually very useful. Di Su's eyes flashed, and she followed closely behind. She also pulled out her retractable knife, and a green flame covered the blade. Her speed was like lightning, and she slashed a small piece of the carapace with great force, leaving a faint green afterimage in everyone's vision. The black earthworm did not care about the two of them. Relying on its thick carapace, it had a calm expression that said, "You can do whatever you want, it will be my loss if I move even a little bit." It tightened its body at a certain angle, and the compartment gradually changed shape. The blue star beast was very strong, and its various molding abilities made it very resistant to attacks. The black earthworm was obviously a wild boss-level monster, and without the firepower of a modern armed army, it would be very difficult to kill it. Even for players, the black earthworm was a monster that at least 5 to 10 people of the same level could challenge. Of course, there were some professional players who could solo kill it. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Another 2 pieces of delicious human-shaped bread were swallowed by the black earthworm. This kind of delicious food was much better than the sandworms underground. The black earthworm ground its teeth together, as if it was savoring this rare and fresh delicacy. The people in the field felt their hair stand on end. The pressure from the top of the food chain made them almost lose their balance. It was as if in this situation, Humans had been stripped of their pride of wisdom and had become frightened lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Fire, the black earthworm is afraid of fire. Su Su shouted. The black earthworm's eyesight had deteriorated, and it was very sensitive to fire and high temperature. It was like the effect of a flash bomb on humans, which would damage the black earthworm's eyesight. If the stalemate continued, the train would be destroyed. Everyone realized this and immediately understood that the only choice was to use fire to force the black earthworm back. Zhang Wei quickly took out the high-explosive bullets that he carried with him and reloaded them. The high-explosive bullets were special bullets, and the agents usually used regular bullet. Bang! 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 In an instant, the black earthworm's impenetrable shell lit up with majestic flames from the big FFF group. The black earthworm, which had been very calm, suddenly started twisting its body crazily. The flames and the high temperature made it extremely uncomfortable, and it became very irritable. It was like a baboon that had failed to mate. Han Xiao stood firmly like a nail. The increasing shaking made him worry that the train would flip over. Basically, all the Secret Service agents had bought his high-explosive bullets before. This kind of situation could be left to the Secret Service agents of Division 13 to deal with, and he was happy to be a bystander. Bundles of flames appeared on the black earthworm's body. Not long after, the black earthworm could not stand the blinding light anymore. It screamed, let go of the carriage, and turned to burrow into the ground. Sand and soil flew everywhere, and within a few seconds, its 10-meter-long body had burrowed into the ground. Its speed was extremely fast, and only a layer of soil was left to cover the hole it had dug. The field agents who had just escaped death felt their legs go weak, and they all fell to the ground with lingering fear. We're saved. I'm not dead yet, I'm not dead yet. Mom, I miss you so much. The black earthworm had only appeared for a few minutes, but it had already caused a lot of damage. The carriage was in tatters, and if they had not gotten rid of it in time, the carriage would have been destroyed. They might not have died, but they would definitely have been late. Fortunately, there were high-explosive bullets. Everyone looked at Han Xiao and felt a sense of gratitude. Zhang Wei patted Han Xiao's shoulder. He felt that it was a good feeling to not have to say anything. If you want to thank me, just say it. I can't read your mind. Everyone was speechless. Your ability to destroy the atmosphere is at the expert level. The field agents rested for a while and got up to clean up the mess. The attack of the black earthworm was just a small episode. The military railway route was relatively safe, and only this accident had happened. The scenery along the way was mostly mountains, forests, and plains. After a while, it was easy to get tired of looking at it. Along the way, Han Xiao stayed in the big black carriage and practiced the energy extraction technique and built machines to gain experience. 3 days later, the train arrived at the Hesla border station. P.S. Thank you to book friend 160822152201168. Wretched exclamation mark, White Phantom ZY, ID not easy to choose. Book friend 150127211117777. Lonely Swan flies at night. WFY, let him go for a few days. Train at midnight. Book friend 150709005607186 for your tips. They were completely different from when they were chatting on the train. It was most likely due to their national pride. Seeing this, Han Xiao did not want to do anything out of line, so he could only mingle with the team. The commander, Colonel Karl, was a stern-looking Caucasian officer in his prime. He was observing the strategic map on the wall with his hands behind his back. When he heard the sound of the door opening, he thought it was his adjutant. Without turning his head, he shouted, "Didn't I tell you not to disturb me when I'm thinking?" Yi Fan coughed. "Colonel, the Star Dragon agents are here to file a report." When Karl saw that it was Yi Fan, his expression eased up. He narrowed his eyes and glanced at the Star Dragon agent. His gaze was cold and indifferent. He snorted and opened the drawer. He took out a document and stamped it. Take them to rest for a while. They will depart with our people in an hour. Carl's attitude towards the Division 13 agents was cold and indifferent. Yi Fan brought them to a simple lounge and said, "Don't wander around. We will depart in a while." After Yi Fan left, only the Star Dragon agents were left in the lounge. Lin Yao finally dared to speak. He whispered, "Why do I feel that the soldiers outside are looking at us strangely? It's as if they are ostracizing us. Also, the commander seems to be hostile towards us." "Don't you know?" Ma Qingyang sneered. "Star Dragon had a war with Hesla in the past. Hesla's people are not friendly to us. Even the agents who go to other countries for joint operations have to suffer such treatment. Carl doesn't look like a moderate." Division 13's factional rivalry was not an exception. It was a situation that existed in almost every country. Maple and Ordina were more conservative, Raylan and Theseus were more aggressive, and Star Dragon and Hesla were more balanced. Then why does the Bureau still want to work with Hesla? Lin Yao asked in disbelief. What if Hesla uses us as cannon fodder? Who knows what the higher-ups are thinking? You just have to be careful. Ma Qingyang did not care. As a veteran of the Covert Operations Department, he was used to such situations. Qi Baijia coughed and explained, "Don't worry. You have to get my approval before you can be deployed." After chatting for a while, everyone quietened down and closed their eyes to rest. They were preparing themselves for the mission. "I'm going out for a smoke." Han Shao got up and walked to the door of the lounge. He lit a cigarette and took a deep puff. The smoke passed through his throat and circled around his lungs. Then, he exhaled 2 thick streams of smoke from his nostrils. He felt relaxed. "You have triggered the faction mission, Dark Crow Valley Operation. Mission Introduction. This is a small-scale military operation. As a member of Division 13, you are a participant in this operation. Let's see what you can do." Hint: this is a faction series mission. You can complete the following requirements in this mission. Reconnaissance I, Team Mission. Investigate the situation in Dark Crow Forest Town. Reward: 3000 EXP. Reconnaissance 2, Team Mission. Investigate the specific situation in Dark Crow Valley Base. Reward: 8000 EXP. Logistics Team Mission. Personal Mission. Complete 20 tool repairs for your teammate. Reward: 5000 EXP. Dark Forest Assassin. Personal Mission. Assassinate 8 sentries. Reward: 18,000 EXP. Direct Conflict. Personal Mission. Kill 50 Germinal Organization soldiers. Reward: 35,000 EXP. Execution I. Kill Duomeng. Rewards will be given based on contribution. Assassination 2. Kill Jijia. Reward based on contribution. Assassination 3. Kill Pan Kuang. Reward based on contribution. Annihilation of Dark Crow Valley. Complete the mission objective. Reward based on contribution. After the mission, additional rewards will be given based on the number of targets completed. Han Shao had thought that this operation would be a normal mission. He did not expect it to be a faction mission. This was even better. He had more room to maneuver. There were many types of missions: competitive missions, prize pool missions, series missions, and faction missions. As long as the majority of the targets were completed, the rewards would definitely be good. Han Shao was smoking when a woman with short red hair walked towards him. She stopped in front of him and asked with uncertainty, "Are you from Star Dragon?" Han Shao looked at her and nodded. "I guess so." Chapter 73. Han Shao looked at the red-haired woman and did not dodge. The dagger stopped 3 centimeters away from the aorta. The sudden change in movement showed that the red-haired woman had great control over her body. "Why aren't you dodging?" "Why should I? You think I don't dare to stab you? You can give it a try. Han Zhao's expression was normal. Under the red-haired woman's sight, the magnetically controlled retractable armor had climbed up to his collar and could protect his neck at any time. Therefore, he was not afraid of the dagger. Furthermore, the fact that the other party was able to appear in the military camp so openly meant that they were Hesla's agents. Therefore, it was impossible for them to actually attack him. This was most likely a test or a show of strength. Since they had chosen him as their target, Han Xiao was slightly displeased. Even his gaze became oppressive. The red-haired woman suddenly felt a chill down her spine. She did not know where this feeling came from. She calmed herself down and said coldly, "Winna, MIB agent." As soon as she finished speaking, Winna suddenly felt something poking her lower abdomen. She looked down and saw a large caliber pistol pointing at her abdomen. Han Xiao smiled and said, "Han Xiao? So fast. I did not even see how he pulled out the gun." Winna's pupils shrank. She put away her dagger. Han Xiao also put away his gun. "I will remember your name." Winna turned around and left. Han Xiao shook his head. Hesla agents are indeed not friendly. I hope they will not drag me down. After walking for a distance, Winna heaved a sigh of relief. Then, she realized that cold sweat was dripping down her temples. Her expression was slightly serious. That Star Dragon agent gave her a very dangerous feeling. When Winna returned to the Hesla agent's lounge, Yi Fan smiled and asked, "What did you find?" Winna drank a mouthful of water to moisten her dry throat. She said in a deep voice, "That Han Xiao is not someone to be trifled with." Han Xiao? Yi Fan recalled from the description of his appearance. That guy had been very low-key ever since he got off the bus. It seemed that he only had a weird expression when he heard my name. A weird person, Yi Fan concluded. After Han Xiao finished smoking, he stepped on the cigarette butt and walked back to the lounge. Qi Baijiao looked over and suddenly asked, "Did anything happen?" "Yes, I just saw a sow fall into the ditch." Qi Baijiao was embarrassed. "Can you be more serious?" "Then it's fine." Han Xiao dug his ears. Since it was just a test, he didn't want everyone to know about it. Firstly, it was for the sake of the mission. Secondly, he felt that there was no need to let his emotions affect his decisions. In his mind, there were 3 types of enemies. The first type were those who were motivated by personal feelings or had infringed on his interests. The second type were those who wanted to kill him and threatened his life. The third type were mortal enemies. Not only did they have hatred, but they also had conflicts of interest. The Germinal Organization was such a case. Facing the Germinal Organization, the enemy with the highest priority, personal feelings had to wait in the waiting list. Qi Baijiao looked at Han Xiao deeply. His seat was near the window, so he could see the door. He had seen everything that happened just now. He had experienced many missions and knew that the agents of other countries would definitely test and show off their strength. This was almost an unspoken rule. The agents were all proud and arrogant. If they didn't show their strength, they wouldn't have the right to speak. If they complained to their superiors, they would be laughed at. Qi Baijiao had a look of approval in his eyes. He was very satisfied with Han Zhao's performance just now. He did not lose his prestige, and he was very happy that Han Xiao kept the secret. He thought to himself, this guy's strength and ability to see the big picture are both very good. They didn't fight? After listening to the report from the adjutant, Carl nodded with satisfaction. Very good. It seems that the Star Dragon people know whose territory this is. Soon, it was time to depart. Everyone arrived at the border exit. Yi Fan, Winna, and more than 10 agents were ready to go. The first stop of the mission was a location very far away from Crow Forest Town. There was an unused secret base of Hesla there that would be used as a temporary base. The vehicles assigned to Division 13 were sent by train. They were all normal off-road vehicles. Only Han Zhao's Dehe was different. It carried his teammates and set off with a rumble. This time, he drove steadily. Li Yulin was so touched that she was about to cry. The other 3 teammates squeezed in the driver's seat were confused. They couldn't understand why Li Yulin looked like she had just survived a disaster. The journey took about half a day. Hesla's fleet led the way in front, and Division 13 followed behind. Suddenly, Hesla's fleet accelerated and gradually increased the distance between them. Seeing this, Di Su Su and Ma Qinyang also sped up to catch up. Only Han Xiao drove Dehe and followed behind at a leisurely pace. "Brother Xiao, let's hurry up and catch up," Lin Yao said hurriedly. Han Xiao held the steering wheel with one hand and put the other hand outside the window. He said casually, "What's there to chase? No matter how fast they run, they will still have to slow down and wait for me." "That's right," Di Su Su's laughter could be heard over the radio. "Little Lin Lin, where are you? Hurry up and catch up. Could it be that Brother Han Zhao's driving skills are not good enough?" "It's a waste of gas," Han Xiao said concisely. Di Su Su was stunned. It was the first time she had heard such a refreshing excuse. Why would agents care about gas? Ma Qinyang said over the radio, "Old Zhang, this is Hesla's demonstration. We can't back down." Zhang Wei thought for a few seconds and patted Han Zhao's shoulder. "Let's catch up." Li Yulin's face turned pale. She grabbed Zhang Wei's sleeve and said, "Don't, Captain. It's good to maintain this speed." "What are you afraid of?" Zhang Wei was confused. "Captain, isn't it good to be alive?" Li Yulin said with a trembling voice. Zhang Wei was confused. He couldn't make head or tail of it. "Really?" Han Xiao raised his eyebrows. "Really?" Zhang Wei nodded. Han Xiao sighed and changed gears skillfully. "Sit tight then." Li Yulin was terrified. She gripped the handle of the car tightly. Her teeth were chattering. You'll regret this." In the afternoon, they arrived at their destination. After everyone got out of the car, they looked at the black truck in front of them with a mixture of fear, astonishment, and disbelief. They shuddered as they recalled the scene just now. As experienced agents, they had seen S and Z movements. However, this was the first time they had seen and movements. Furthermore, they were running faster than anyone else. This was not drifting. This was F** King taking off. The driver of the heavy truck was drunk. Zhang Wei, Lin Yao, and Li Yulin stumbled out of the car and held onto a nearby tree. They vomited so much that the sky turned dark. They wished they could go back to the furnace and start anew. "Wretch, I feel like I'm going to die. Wretch, I told you you'd regret this." "Wretch," Han Xiao got out of the car with a cigarette in his mouth. "You were the ones who wanted me to chase. You used to drive bumper cars." Han Xiao curled his lips. "Bumper cars? You're looking down on me. I used to drive mechas." Lambert got out of the car with steady step. Han Zhao's eyes lit up. "See, there's still a normal person." Lambert wanted to say something to Han Xiao. However, as soon as he opened his mouth, vomit poured out like a waterfall. When it was all gone, Lambert said expressionlessly, "If you touch the steering wheel again, I'll jump out of the car. P.S. Thank you to White Phantom ZY, Book Friend 20170627142350565, Chingy, Querist, Inger, End of Shore for their tips. Chapter 74. The car was parked outside, and everyone moved the equipment into the secret base. The pre-battle meeting began. "We have 2 missions. First, disguise ourselves as wanderers and infiltrate Crow Forest Town to gather intel. Second, find the Germinal Organization sentries nearby and interrogate them about the situation at Dark Crow Valley Base." Winna immediately said, "We will deal with the sentries. You guys go to Crow Forest Town." Di Su Su frowned. There might be Germinal Organization spies hiding in Crow Forest Town, and there was a risk of being exposed. It was not easy to gain anything. It was easier to obtain intel from the sentries, and it was safer for them. Hesla's people could not wait to hand over the dangerous and difficult mission to Division 13. This attitude made the people of Division 13 unhappy, but the mission had to be completed. No one objected. Chi Bai Jia said, "To infiltrate Crow Forest Town, we have to disguise ourselves as wanderers first. Then, we have to find an opportunity to gather intel secretly. We must not alert the enemy." After a discussion, they decided to leave some people in the secret base. 4 people stayed behind: Lin Yao, Chi Bai Jia, Ma Qingyang, and Han Xiao. On the other hand, Hesla also left a few people in the secret base. Han Xiao only recognized Yi Fan among them. It was afternoon, and Hesla's people decided to rest first. They would set off to look for the sentries at dawn. That was the time when the enemy was most relaxed. They were equipped with thermal imaging devices, and the darkness was advantageous to them. They also wanted Division 13 to scout for mines first. After finalizing the plan, the agents from Division 13 who had decided to infiltrate formed a team with Di Su Su as the leader. All of them changed into rogues' outfit. They hunched their backs, looking as though they were being pressured by an invisible force. Their disguises were very convincing. They carried a huge backpack and walked towards the Crow Forest. There were many computer screens in the secret base that were connected to the images and earphones of the agent. Han Xiao, Lin Yao, and Chi Bai Jia took turns to monitor the screens. Not long after, Di Su Su and the rest arrived at Crow Forest Town. The screen showed the appearance of a small town with all kinds of buildings. Although the houses were small and shabby, they were densely populated. It was like a market. The town was not small, and it had everything. There were even hotels that were open to welcome guests. "Let's find a place to stay first." Di Su Su and the rest were interrogated by the locals. She answered fluently and pretended to be a group of migrating wanderers. Coincidentally, they were passing by and hoped to rest for a few days. After getting rid of the interrogation, they stayed in a hotel in the town. After entering the room, everyone immediately displayed their professionalism and checked the room for surveillance cameras and bugs. After confirming that everything was safe, they began to discuss the next step of the plan. What should we do next? Li Yilin curled her lips and looked at Di Su Su with disdain. Di Su Su was not in the mood to tease Li Yilin. She frowned and said seriously, "Our identities are still suspicious. It's best for us to stay put for now." Han Xiao suddenly said in the earpiece, "You'd better act tonight." "Reason?" Di Su Su raised her eyebrows slightly. "You are now a group of foreign wanderers. Play your role well and inquire about the local situation. If you deliberately hide, your actions will be abnormal, and it will easily expose your ulterior motive." "That makes sense." Everyone looked at each other. "Let's do as Han Xiao says." There were entertainment facilities in the town, such as a small casino, a shop selling psychotropic drugs, a restaurant, and facilities to relieve physical needs. At night, everyone would go out in 2s and 3s and pretend to be normal. They would ask for information and collect information, but they did not find anything substantial. Most of the residents here were normal wanderers, and they did not find any suspicious targets. Chi Bai Jia's face was solemn. "The other party is too secretive. It will be difficult to find anything." "Not necessarily." Han Xiao smiled. He knew that there was a special spy in Crow Forest Town. Players could choose to join the germinal organization after completing missions to gain favorability. As long as they caught this NPC, they would be able to get a lot of information. Han Xiao knew the exact location of the Dark Crow Valley base, but he did not know the exact military strength. It was too small. After more than 10 years, he only had a vague impression of such details. Furthermore, the time was different now, and Han Xiao was not sure if there were any changes. Therefore, it was necessary to gather information. Go to the south of the town. There is a casino. There should be a bald man inside. That person knows about the Dark Crow Valley base. The person Han Xiao was talking about was the Germinal organization's spy in Crow Forest. Players who were born in Crow Forest could only join the Germinal organization through him. Everyone was stunned. Di Su Su frowned and asked, "Where did you get this information?" "I naturally have my ways. What if the information is wrong?" Di Su Su did not give up. "Listen to him," Qi Baijia interrupted. Before they left, his superior had told him to trust Han Xiao. It was obvious that the superiors valued Han Xiao. Di Su Su could only suppress her doubts and listen to the order. She led the team to the small casino in the south and secretly asked around. Indeed, they found a bald man. He was the dealer of the casino. "What should we do now? If we act rashly, we will alert the enemy. Who knows if there are accomplices around?" Di Su Su asked. Han Xiao said helplessly, "Why are you asking me when you have already found him? Can't you show some professionalism?" Di Su Su's chest tightened. She was so angry that she could not speak. However, she also realized that she had asked a stupid question. She snorted angrily and called for her teammates to secretly surround Han Xiao. Han Xiao looked at the time and got up to take over Lin Yao's night shift. He did not need to monitor the specific operation. If there were any accidents, the Secret Service agents should just kill themselves. At the same time, Winna left with the Hesla agent. Before she left, she did not forget to give Han Xiao a dirty look. Han Xiao did not intend to rest in the stronghold. He walked out of the stronghold and returned to Big Black's cargo compartment. The 2 reconnaissance missions were team missions. If there were no accidents, he should be able to complete them. Therefore, he should focus on his personal mission. If he wanted to assassinate the sentry in the jungle, he would need some small tools. Han Xiao took out the parts and focused on the interface. "Do you want to proceed with knowledge fusion, basic wide area perception plus basic bionics plus basic mechanical engineering? This fusion will cost 15,000 EXP. Congratulations on developing Small Arthropod Detector, Spider." Winna and her team were wearing night vision goggles and camouflage suit. They walked quietly in the jungle like hunters in the dark forest, looking for their prey. They would only encounter the sentry when they were close to the Dark Crow Valley base. There was a master tracker in the team who could determine the road conditions from a day ago based on the traces in the jungle. This tracking master was called Majinu, and he was a tall and sturdy shinobi. His body was like a small mountain, and very few people would think that he was a meticulous person. At this time, he rubbed the dirt, put it to the tip of his nose, and sniffed it. He closed his eyes and thought for a while, then said, 7 hours ago, a person, male, weighing about 180 pounds, heading southwest. Winna did not doubt Majinu's judgment. She led her team carefully toward the direction. Suddenly she stopped. The thermal imaging device showed that there was a life form squatting on a tree 300 meters away. "Check the surroundings." Winna was very calm. She did not act rashly. She asked her teammates to check if there were any hidden sentry or surveillance devices nearby. After 20 minutes, she confirmed that everything was safe. "Take him down," Yi Fan ordered through the communication device. Winna suddenly moved. A dark red glow flashed under her feet. She quickly and quietly approached the sentry within 100 meters. With the help of the trees, she hid herself in the sentry's blind spot. She was like a master assassin. She flipped over a tree like a cat. Her palms were also glowing with a dark red glow. She was like an octopus clinging to the trunk of a tree. She kept leaping, suppressing the sound of the wind as she approached the sentry in the air. Chapter 75. 10 minutes later. Kacha! Magna broke the soldier's neck. They had obtained the information they wanted. Winna said through the communication device, "We have obtained preliminary information. The security perimeter of the base is divided into 6 zones. This is the outermost perimeter. Every perimeter has a sentry post, and an officer is in charge of all the sentries in the area. According to the interrogation earlier, the officer can log into the base's intranet. Therefore, as long as we reach the sentry post, we can use the officer's computer to browse the base's intranet and collect detailed information about the enemy. This soldier has already revealed the location of the base. There is no time to lose. I request that we act immediately. Yi Fan sighed. There was a system for changing shifts at the sentry post. It would take at most 24 hours for the enemy to discover that the sentry post had been killed. However, as long as they could get the information, it did not matter if they were exposed. The invasion of Hesla's army could not be hidden from the enemy. What they needed to do was to find out the defensive measures and military strength of the Dark Crow Valley base. However, if Winna's operation succeeded, the Division 13 agents in Dark Crow Forest Town would be exposed. The death of the sentry post and the invasion of the town happened on the same day. Even if the Division 13 agents did not have time to commit the crime, the enemy would still suspect them. At this moment, Yi Fan made a rational decision. Operation approved. Head to the enemy's base immediately. Winna nodded, got rid of the corpse, and led the team into action. Yi Fan heaved a sigh of relief and looked away from the screen. He looked at the office of Division 13 and shook his head slightly. His decision had nothing to do with pleasure. It was all for the sake of the mission. He would inform Division 13 later, who did not want to risk their life. Before dawn, Winna and the rest found the sentry post. It was a very secluded hut in the forest. It looked like a hunter's base. The team quietly approached the hut. Magnu took out a sonar detector from his backpack and placed it on the outer wall of the hut. After activating the detector, a black and white image appeared. There were 3 targets in the detector. One was lying on the sofa, and the other 2 were sitting at the table. They seemed to be having supper. Winna raised her finger and counted down silently. 3, 2, 1. Winna jumped up and broke through the window. Her teammates followed closely behind. The 3 enemies did not expect an enemy invasion. They were so shocked that they jumped up. Before they could yell or pull out their pistols, they were knocked down by 3 shots from the well-trained Hesla agent. The Hesla agents immediately searched the room and the 3 men's clothes. They found a secret compartment in the wall with a safe inside. Another agent found an identity card on the body of an unconscious enemy. The card clearly stated that the person was a military officer. That's the target. Winna was overjoyed. This man was the officer in charge of the sentry post. She looked at his ID card and saw that his name was Roman. He was a black man. The agent tied Roman up and then injected him with a sobering agent. When he slowly woke up, Magnus slapped him to speed up his recovery. He said in a low voice, "Tell me the password to the safe if you don't want to die." Roman was frightened by the group of fully armed agents in front of him. He hurriedly confessed, not showing the slightest bit of loyalty. After keying in the password, the safe was successfully opened. There was a specially made laptop inside, which was not any brand on the market. When the laptop was turned on, there was a login interface that required an identity card and a password. Roman was very cooperative. He entered the interface through his account. Following a cheerful ringtone, a line of welcome appeared on the laptop. Dang, 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 the Germinal organization's idiotic operation assistant is at your service. Yi Fan, who was drinking coffee, spat it out. All the Hesla agents' faces twitched. This did not match the style at all. So naughty. Yi Fan did not know if he should spit it out. Various menus appeared on the interface. Roman's access was low, so he could only browse a small part of the menu. Winna and the rest saw the locked logs of the base and were slightly excited. These logs contained all the information about the base. "Let me do it." Yi Fan ordered Magnus to plug a chip into the computer. In the base, the screen in front of Yi Fan was synchronized with the computer. Yi Fan's face suddenly became serious. His hands were like butterflies dancing in the air as he typed furiously on the keyboard. First layer of firewall cracked. Second layer of firewall cracked. Third layer of firewall cracked. Internal dynamic password cracked. Access restrictions cracked. Yi Fan smiled slightly. He was an experienced hacker in Hesla. He had hundreds of different kinds of viruses in his hands. Except for some monsters on the dark web and the Great Disconnection technique, no one could stop him from hacking. In less than 3 minutes, all the locked files were opened. At this time, the enemy hackers finally reacted and started to delete the files frantically. On the other hand, Yi Fan quickly backed up the files. Both parties were racing against time. Soon, all the files were deleted. Yi Fan's laptop was not fast enough. Even though he was very skilled, he could only back up 28% of the files. The base usually started from the classified files first. However, it was enough. The files that Yi Fan had obtained included the distribution of the base's defense measures, internal structure, military terrain, and a large number of logs. It's done. Come back. Yi Fan heaved a sigh of relief. The stolen information would definitely alert the Dark Crow Valley base. However, with the information in hand, it did not matter if they were exposed. However, Yi Fan felt that something was off. It seemed a little too smooth. Sir, the external network has been hacked. In the intelligence control room of the Dark Crow Valley base, there were many computer screens all over the place, said a staff member. The deputy supervisor of the base, GG, was a tall and skinny man with a gloomy face. He walked to the screen calmly and said slowly, "What data has been stolen?" The base's experiment logs, the internal structure of the base's coordinates, the base's sentry duty changing records. The staff member reported more than 10 key pieces of information. Although the network had been hacked, no one in the base showed any signs of panic. Could the intruder be from Hesla? The bait has been thrown out. We are just waiting for the fish to take the bait. GG's lips curled into a mocking smile. He was like a hunter who had just seen his prey fall into the trap. GG went to the supervisor's office and reported to Pan Kwang. Just now, a hacker has hacked into the external camouflage network. I think it is from Hesla. We might be attacked by the military in the future. Pan Kwang used a handkerchief to wipe a long black knife. The long knife was as cold as autumn. The body of the knife was straight and thick. The handle of the knife was wrapped with cloth. From the dried bloodstains on the knife, one could tell that the knife had been used for many years and had taken many lives. Pan Kwang focused on wiping the knife, as if there was nothing else in his eyes. He did not even raise his head. He only asked, "What do you think we should do?" GG cleared his throat and said, "Although the enemy has only obtained the bait, the existence of the base has been exposed. I suggest that we ask the leader to evacuate the base and take all the resources and information with us. Before we evacuate, we should try our best to kill as many of the enemy's forces as possible." "Okay," Pan Kwang said calmly. "If you need me to fight, just let me know." Chapter 76. Reconnaissance IU completed. You have received 3,000 experience points. Han Xiao was awakened by the notification on the interface. He looked out of the window. It was dawn, and the sky was starting to brighten. Blue and gray mixed together. Han Xiao had only slept for 2 hours the previous night to build the new machine. He took out a bottle of water and wet his face. The refreshing feeling woke him up. He walked out of the cargo compartment and entered the base. Lin Yao had been working all night. Qi Baijiao was taking a nap on the sofa next to Lin Yao. He had also woken up. "What did you get last night?" Han Xiao asked. Lin Yao said weakly, "That bald man told us about his accomplices hiding in Crow Forest Town. We captured a group of criminals and found out the exact location of the Dark Crow Valley base. However, they were all peripheral members and did not know much about the base. That's all we got. Han Xiao nodded. This was within his expectations. Otherwise, a reconnaissance too would have been completed. Are they still in hiding? Yes. They are on standby in Crow Forest Town. There is no more value there. We can retreat now, Han Xiao said. Qi Baijia, who was eating military rations for breakfast, rolled his eyes and said, "Have you forgotten that I am the commander?" Han Xiao was surprised. "Aren't you supposed to be our scapegoat?" Qi Baijia choked on his rations and coughed. He was speechless. Just as he was about to retort, Yi Fan walked over. "Everyone from Division 13, our men have obtained the exact location of the Dark Crow Valley base. The mission is complete." Qi Baijia was shocked. It had not even been a day, and the Hesla agents had already completed the mission. Their efficiency was amazing. "Did you really obtain all the information about the Dark Crow Valley base?" Yi Fan nodded. "Winna and her men even captured a witness. Our mission is complete. Withdraw your men. Let's sort out the information together and send it to the army." Han Xiao frowned. The interface did not show that Reconnaissance 2 was completed. He asked, "Are you sure that the information is true? Can you tell us the details of the mission?" "Of course." Yi Fan briefly explained the operation of Winna and her men. Han Xiao pondered and said, "Don't you think it went too smoothly?" "Yes, but there was nothing suspicious. It could only mean that the enemy's vigilance was too low. Don't forget that we launched a surprise attack on them." "I don't think so. Being suspicious is a good thing, but being suspicious without evidence is overkill." Yi Fan frowned and said decisively, "Anyway, we'll prepare to leave tomorrow morning. We'll move together." Looking at Yi Fan's back, Han Zhao's face darkened. He was 100% sure that there was something fishy about the information Yi Fan had obtained. However, he recalled Yi Fan's description of the operation. Winna and the other agents were only a little too aggressive, but they did not make many mistakes. There was only one possibility. There was something else going on in the Dark Crow Valley base. Han Xiao did not have any evidence. Even if he voiced his suspicions, others would not believe him, just like Yi Fan. Conjecture could not be trusted. "Looks like I have to check it out myself." In the morning, Di Su Su and Winna returned to the base together. Both sides had brought back captives as witnesses. Roman was a cadre officer. He was more valuable than Di Su Su's captives. Winna had a victorious smile on her face. In her eyes, this mission was a competition between the agents of both sides. Hesla had defeated Division 13 perfectly. The agents of Division 13 were enraged by the victorious attitude of the Hesla agent. Li Yulin said indignantly, "If we had changed the mission, you would have lost." Winna sneered. "The result has been decided. A loss is a loss. A win is a win." Han Xiao walked over and said, "Your information might be fake." Regardless of whether they believed it or not, he still had to remind them. Winna's expression changed. She asked Han Xiao, "What evidence do you have?" Intuition. It was indeed an omnipotent reason. Everyone looked as if they had eaten a pound of **T. Winna was so angry that she laughed. "Then shut up. What's the weight of your speculation?" Han Xiao was not angry. Instead, he asked, "Do you have any evidence?" Winna patted Roman, who was trembling like a quail, and said, "This is my evidence." Han Xiao squatted down and looked at Roman carefully. Suddenly, he nodded, stood up, and walked away. Winna thought that he had given in and was elated. It seems that there is a powerful agent in the Dark Crow Valley base. Han Zhao's expression was solemn. Roman's fear and will to live did not seem to be fake. This meant that he was not a loyalist who had purposely provided false information. Therefore, there was only one logical conclusion. The Dark Crow Valley base had not revealed the real information to these low-ranking officers. The sentries patrolling the perimeter were not only sentries but also bait. The information that Yi Fan had hacked could have been manipulated. To find out the truth, he had to infiltrate the Dark Crow Valley base personally. A plan formed in Han Zhao's mind. However, he had to wait until nightfall. Everyone was interrogating the captives and sorting out the information. They would only leave the next morning. He still had one night. The moon was bright and the stars were few. Han Xiao said to his colleagues, "I am going to stay in the car for a while." No one replied to him. Hesla did not bother to reply, and Division 13 did not bother to reply. Only Zhang Wei said helplessly, "Go ahead if you want to. No one is stopping you." Han Xiao nodded and walked out of the base. He returned to the cargo compartment and carried Lambert's anti-material rifle and all the necessary equipment. He then locked the door of the cargo compartment and looked around to make sure that no one was outside the base. He turned around and walked into the forest, disappearing into the darkness. He did not intend to inform his teammate. Qi Baijiao would definitely not agree. It would only cause trouble for him. After trekking for almost half the night, Han Xiao finally arrived at his target location. He equipped himself with thermal imaging night vision goggles and an environmental protection suit. After confirming that there were no enemies around, he quietly dug a hole that could fit a person. After digging the hole, Han Xiao took out 4 mechanical spiders from his toolbox, placed them on the ground, and activated them. The mechanical spiders stood up and stood in front of Han Xiao, like a team of small scouts waiting to be dispatched. Small arthropod detector, spider small insect-like detector. This was a new blueprint that Han Xiao had created. It was a practical tool that could be used as a pair of eyes and ears. It was small in size, very secretive, and could be controlled remotely. It was equipped with a heat sensor that would automatically avoid heat sources and life forms when it was not controlled. It could be described as a walking surveillance camera. With the spider detector, he did not need to get close to the hidden sentries, which reduced the chances of being discovered. Han Xiao took out his tablet and compared the images of the 4 spider detectors. It did not take long for him to determine the location of a few hidden sentries. Most of them were hidden near the trees. He quickly outlined the distribution of the hidden sentries in his mind and planned out the most suitable assassination route. In the dark forest, Han Xiao crept forward with his heavy sniper rifle, keeping his target within his shooting range. Lambert's heavy sniper rifle was equipped with a silencer, so the sound it made was only as loud as a finger hitting wood. In this quiet and dark forest, even an elite agent within 100 meters would be able to notice this small movement. However, Lambert's heavy sniper rifle had a range of 800 meters. This was also the reason why Han Xiao had decided to use this weapon. Compared to taking out the hidden sentries one by one, long-range sniping was much safer and more convenient. It was worth it for him to activate the sniping branch. Han Xiao held his breath and focused. He put the target into the scope, and the distance of a few hundred meters did not seem to exist in his eyes. The feeling of being able to shoot with ease surfaced in his heart. Crosshair head. Wind direction 8 o'clock. Wind speed 1.3 deviation 43 mm. Elevation angle, advance angle. Calibration completed. Han Xiao suddenly pulled the trigger. The recoil from the rifle caused his body to tremble slightly. He used his great strength to control the sniper rifle without the slightest deviation. Chapter 77. When the sniper hit the head, it was like a watermelon being smashed by a sledgehammer. Han Xiao used the spider detector to adjust his position and shoot steadily. One by one, he eliminated the sentries, and the kill notifications appeared on his interface. Sneak attack critical hit plus 200%. Fatal hit. This attack is considered a fatal hit. You have dealt 190 damage to the enemy. You have killed the Germinal Organization Sentinel. You have gained 500 EXP. Sneak attack critical hit plus 200%. Fatal hit. This attack is considered a fatal hit. You have dealt 201 damage to the enemy. You have killed the Germinal Organization Sentinel. You have gained 500 EXP. These sentries were around LV-10, and they were all normal soldiers. Their strength was about the same as the guards when Han Shao escaped from the laboratory. At that time, he could already trample the guards, and now it was even easier. One by one, the sentries were killed, and Han Shao gained thousands of EXP. Dark Forest Assassin completed. You have gained 18,000 EXP. The mission was completed quite smoothly. After killing so many sentries, there should be people coming soon. Oh, they're coming. The spider detector showed that 3 fully armed rapid response teams were driving over from afar. After getting off the car, they started searching in all directions. The sentries were equipped with earphones and were connected to the communication network. If one was assassinated silently, it would take some time for them to be discovered. However, if the sentries went silent, it would immediately attract the attention of the Dark Crow Valley base, and they would immediately send out teams to search. Han Shao had expected such a situation. When the search team found the hidden sentries who had their heads blown up one by one, they would probably search the surroundings like wild dogs in heat. Ah no, crazy dogs. Through the spider detector that he had hidden in the tree, he saw that the teams were equipped with Jason submachine guns, high-explosive grenades, and RPG rocket launchers. He immediately gave up on the idea of gaining another wave of EXP. Then again, he did not intend to fight head-on. It was better to run. Han Shao folded the heavy sniper and put on the camouflage suit that was covered with weeds and leaves. He moved stealthily and returned to the place where he dug the hole. He put the extra equipment into the toolbox and threw the heavy sniper into the hole. However, he did not fill the hole yet. When he was done, 3 search teams found the hidden sentry who had been shot in the head. The armed guards immediately carried their submachine guns, equipped with flashlights, and carefully spread out to search. Next to the pit was a big tree. Han Shao hid behind the tree and confirmed the enemy's position through the spider detector. He took out a thin piece of strong steel wire and wrapped it around his glove. He leaned against the tree and held his breath as he waited. Thud, thud, thud. The sound of footsteps grew closer and closer. There was only one person who was gradually approaching the tree that he was hiding in. The location that Han Shao had chosen was carefully chosen. It happened to be at the edge of the alert range. The further away it was, the more scattered the enemies would be. There was a high chance that only one enemy would come to search. The flashlight shone from the side of the tree. Han Shao slowly crouched down and tightened the thin steel wire on his hands. He gathered strength in his legs and was like a praying mantis, ready to jump out at any time. The moment the armed guard's feet crossed the tree, Han Shao moved. He went around the other side of the tree like a ghost and quickly came behind the armed guard. The armed guard had already heard his footsteps. In shock, he wanted to turn around and open fire. He opened his mouth and was about to call for help. However, Han Shao was one step faster. He put the steel wire around the armed guard's neck from behind and tightened in an instant, causing the armed guard to choke back his cry for help. Then, Han Shao used his knee to push away the submachine gun in the armed guard's hand. He then took 2 steps back and dragged the armed guard to the ground with his hands. The enemy's upper body leaned against Han Shao's knees. The suffocating pressure caused the armed guard's face to quickly turn purple. He wanted to pull the thin steel wire away, but the steel wire was already embedded in his flesh. His back was facing Han Shao. His hands moved wildly, but he couldn't grab hold of Han Shao at all. His eyes gradually turned white. Han Shao maintained the strength in his hands until the kill notification appeared on the interface. Only then did he let go of his hand. From the beginning to the end, he didn't let the armed guard make a sound. Han Shao quickly took off the armed guard's clothes and put them on himself. The armed guard was a Caucasian and was about the same height as him. He quickly used a knife to trim his hair, then raised his collar and tightened his sleeves to cover all the skin that could be exposed. This was to prevent others from discovering that his skin color was not right. Then, he pressed his finger between his eyebrows and activated the switch of the face simulator. A triangular scanning ray shot out from between his eyebrows and quickly scanned the armed guard's face. Scanning simulation. Han Zhao's face suddenly changed, and in an instant, he looked exactly like the armed guard. This was his trump card to infiltrate the germinal organization. After throwing the armed guard's naked body and the replaced equipment into the hole, he quickly filled it up with soil and made a secret mark. Then, Han Zhao put on the germinal organization's uniform and swaggered out. Through his earpiece, he could hear the enemy's communication through the communication network. H-103 reporting no abnormalities in the northwest. H-141 reporting no abnormalities in the southeast. The number of the unlucky guy that he had replaced was H-222. Han Zhao lowered his voice and repeated the same thing as the other guy. H-223, what's wrong with your voice? The person who seemed to be his superior spoke. My throat hurts. After pretending to search for a while, Han Zhao was summoned back. More than 20 armed guards gathered around the car, so he didn't arouse any suspicion. The person who seemed to be the captain asked, "Didn't you find anything?" "No," everyone said in unison. The captain frowned. "Get in the car. Return to the base." Han Zhao narrowed his eyes. This was similar to his plan. He could sneak into this team and follow them directly to the Dark Crow Valley base. The car drove into an inconspicuous cave. After driving for about 3 minutes, the scenery in front of them opened up. There was another world in the cave. It was a small parking lot. The car stopped and everyone alighted. Han Zhao followed the team forward and came to a stone wall that looked very normal. The captain stretched out his hand and pried open a stone. This stone was actually a disguise. It was a metal box with a card reader hidden in it. The captain took out his ID card and swiped it. The stone wall suddenly opened up. Han Zhao realized that the stone wall was actually a metal door. It was sprayed with a layer of realistic stone-colored coating. It was so realistic that it could be mistaken for the real thing. If one didn't look closely, they wouldn't have noticed it. This is strange. This is similar to the information that Hesla received. Han Zhao was confused. These scenes were all written in Yi Fan's information, and they were all correct. Moreover, they were the same as the screenshots and posts that he remembered from the players. Why didn't the interface say that Reconnaissance 2 was completed? What went wrong? Could it be that the Dark Crow Valley base at this time was more mysterious? Han Zhao followed the team forward. Along the way, they passed through 2 security checkpoints. He used his ID card to enter the Dark Crow Valley base. This was a secret underground base. The structure was mainly made of steel. Everywhere was a cold gray color, which added to the solemn atmosphere. The corridors were winding, and there were many rooms. Members of the germinal organization walked in and out as if they were busy transporting supplies. Han Zhao looked up and saw a surveillance camera at the corner of the ceiling. He couldn't help but shrink his neck. I can be considered to be a lone army going deep into enemy territory with a single blade. Second Master, please protect me. I've successfully infiltrated. What should I do next? Should I wander around or find someone to ask? No. I might expose myself if I ask. I don't know what kind of information is the target. Can I only rely on my luck? No, since the requirement of Reconnaissance 2 is to find out specific information about the Dark Crow Valley base, there must be something strange here. If the information given by the low-ranking officers is bait, then the members here probably don't know anything about it. Therefore, I have to be careful of those who act differently from the others. As this thought flashed through his mind, Han Zhao started to walk and observe his surroundings. 13 sentries were killed? Gigi frowned. In his opinion, the enemy should have believed the fake information given by the external network. Why did they attack the sentries again? Was it to test the authenticity of the information? It seemed that the intruders were more cautious than he thought. Gigi shook his head. But they are still too inexperienced. The two-level network was a trap set by Gigi when he was the deputy manager of the base. It was to prevent intruders from coming into contact with them. Now it was finally showing its effect. Pure fake information would be exposed at first glance. In order to increase the authenticity of the information, Gigi did not hesitate to use the lives of his own people as bait. The bait contained some real information, which included the exact location of the base and the distribution of all the sentries and fortifications from the 3rd to the 6th level. Only by mixing the real information with the fake would the enemy fall into the trap. The firepower of the last 2 levels of defense was more than 10 times stronger. Furthermore, there was another trump card. The leader has agreed to arrange the evacuation route. The reinforcements will arrive in 5 days. We can evacuate by then. Before that, let's give Hesla a big gift. The main force of the germinal organization was located in the mainland of Andria. The hundreds of branches and bases in other continents were all tentacles of the organization. They were secretly developing and expanding, accumulating resources for the organization, and becoming the hidden nail in the enemy's territory. It was not the time to be exposed yet. Once they were discovered, they would have to evacuate to prevent losses. A single base could not withstand the endless military power of the 6 nations. Chapter 78. When infiltrating a base, the more nervous one was, the easier it was to be exposed. Han Shao had experience in infiltration. He was calm and collected, and he did not attract any attention. After wandering around the base for a while, he gradually understood the structure of the base. The base was hidden in the middle of the mountain. It was not small, at least 5 or 6 times larger than the laboratory that he had stayed in before. There were 2 exits. One was the main entrance, and the other was a side door that was directly connected to the outside world. It was convenient for personnel to enter and leave alone. For some reason, Han Shao felt that something was wrong in the base, but he could not pinpoint what was wrong. Most of the people had a serious expression on their faces as they hurriedly moved the important supplies. Have you heard? The higher-ups want us to evacuate. It seems that the Hesla people have discovered us. The higher-ups said that the scouts in Crow Forest Town have lost contact. It seems that a war is about to break out. After turning a corner, Han Shao heard voices. A few armed guards were gathered together and talking. They sounded worried. When they saw Han Shao, one of them shouted, "Hey, Talamander, did you guys find anything when you went out to search?" Talamander was the real name of H-223. He was a Caucasian. Han Shao wrapped himself tightly in his uniform, so his skin color could not be seen. These few guards seemed to know Talamander. Han Zhao's eyes flashed. The sentry posts outside were shot in the head by a sniper rifle. There was no enemy. "I guess this is the work of the Hesla people," he said. The guards were worried. They were armed personnel. If the enemy attacked, they would have to stop them. "I'm so envious of the civilian staff. They can evacuate first," one of the guards said angrily. Han Zhao's eyes flashed. The evacuation of the Dark Crow Valley base was expected. After all, they were facing the official army of Hesla, and this was only a sub-base. It was impossible for all of them to stay and fight to the death. However, it was not an easy task to evacuate. With so many people, they would leave traces in the forest and be tracked by the Hesla army. Therefore, some of the armed personnel had to stay behind to fight the enemy. The officers and civilian staff had to evacuate first with the important supplies. Some confidential supplies were more important than people. The remaining armed personnel would only receive the order to evacuate when the officers were out of danger. The ultimate goal of the faction mission was to destroy the Dark Crow Valley base. That included the enemy's forces. If they were to only occupy an empty base, the mission completion rate would be very low. Han Xiao suddenly realized a problem. Why didn't the base evacuate when they knew about Hesla's invasion? Yi Fan invaded last night and it's been 24 hours. It should be enough time for them to retreat. Something's wrong. At this time, a burly man walked over and shouted, "What are you all doing? Don't you have anything to do? Go and carry the things." The few guards hurriedly apologized in fear and trepidation. Han Zhao's eyes lit up. This officer was the base's guard captain, Duo Meng, a tall and sturdy Sharnak. What secrets did the base hold? Such a core figure would definitely know. After Duo Meng berated him a few times, he turned around and left. Han Xiao followed him from a distance. After turning a few corners, he was suddenly stunned. Duo Meng had actually disappeared. He had only left his line of sight for 2 seconds. There was no one in this corridor except for a utility room. Han Xiao walked over and twisted the doorknob. There was no lock on the door. He pushed the door open and walked in. There was no one inside, only a pile of miscellaneous items. The lights were not turned on, and the light from the corridor outside shone in through the gap of the door. Han Xiao suddenly frowned as he realized something was wrong. The utility room was spotless, and there were no footprints on the floor. Logically speaking, very few people would be in the utility room. Even 5-star hotels were too lazy to organize cleaners every day, so it was even more impossible for the Germinal organization to do so. Han Xiao was sure that there was a secret door here. Otherwise, Duo Meng would not have disappeared into thin air. However, he could not find the location of the secret door. What would be behind the secret door? Suddenly, Han Xiao covered his mouth and coughed. While he was bending down, he took out the only spider detector he had on him and threw it to the corner of the storage room. Then, he quickly left the storage room and found a blind spot where there were no surveillance cameras. He took out his tablet and activated the spider detector to keep an eye on the storage room. This lasted for 2 hours, which was far beyond Han Zhao's estimation. He was extremely tense and felt a little tired. At this time, there was finally a change in the utility room. A metal door cracked open on one side of the wall and 2 people walked out. They were not armed and seemed to be technicians. It is indeed a secret door. The 2 of them hurriedly left the utility room. Han Xiao quietly followed them. His eyes turned and he quickened his pace. He bumped into the 2 from behind and the 3 of them staggered. Sorry. Han Xiao hurriedly apologized and helped the 2 of them up. The 2 of them did not say anything. Han Xiao continued to follow the 2 of them. At this time, he had a white card in his hand. It was the ID card that one of them had put in his shirt pocket. Learn how to steal and travel the world. The card was exactly the same as a normal ID card, but Han Xiao felt that the chip inside was different. It had the authority to pass through the secret door. He followed the 2 of them all the way to the side door of the base. The 2 of them greeted the guards at the door and walked out. Han Xiao suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He finally knew what was wrong with this base. The atmosphere. Most of the people were nervous and worried that the Hesla army would launch a large-scale attack. However, a small number of people stayed at their posts and were not worried at all. It was as if they had something to rely on, which was different from the nervous people. If one did not pay close attention, it would be difficult to notice a small number of the latter. The 2 of them who had walked out of the secret door just now had a look of confidence. Han Xiao narrowed his eyes. He had a guess, but he still needed to verify it. When he came to the side door, the guard stopped him. You are not allowed to enter or leave the base without a mission. Han Xiao took out the stolen ID card and said, I bumped into the 2 of them just now, and they dropped this ID card. I will give it to them before they go too far. The guard nodded and let him go. Han Xiao walked out of the side door. Outside the base was a forest valley. It was already early in the morning. The two of them were only a few hundred meters away, and he could only see their small backs. He quickly chased after them. The two of them heard footsteps behind them and turned around. They were alert. You dropped your ID cards. When Han Xiao came closer, the two of them realized that Han Xiao was a colleague they had met in the base. They were relieved. The one who had dropped his ID card touched his pocket and said in surprise, "When did you drop it?" "Thank you." "What are you thanking me for?" "We are all revolutionary comrades who are working together to build a spiritual civilization. This is what I should do." Han Xiao walked closer with a smile. "You are such an interesting person." One of them smiled. Just as he was about to reach out and take the ID card, Han Xiao's expression suddenly froze. He suddenly attacked and landed a heavy punch on the opponent's stomach. The force went through the opponent's flesh and shook the opponent's gut. The opponent's eyes widened, and he spat out a mouthful of bile. Before the other person could even scream, Han Xiao had already grabbed his neck with one hand, strangling his windpipe, and smashing his head onto the ground. Then, he slammed his palm into the ground and knocked the two ordinary people unconscious. Han Xiao took out his belt and tied the two of them together. He dragged them behind him and walked in a big circle to avoid the possible sentries. When he was far enough away from the base, he slapped the two of them to wake them up. The two of them woke up and said in horror, You are not from the base." Han Xiao unsheathed his retractable machete and stroked the blade with his fingers. "I know you guys have some information that normal members don't know. Please tell me honestly," he said coldly. The two of them gulped and said, "We low-level members don't know anything." "Low-level members?" Han Xiao laughed. He suddenly stabbed the knife and went straight for the lower part of one of them. The man was so scared that his soul almost left his body. He screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Suddenly, he realized that he didn't feel any pain. He lowered his head and saw the shiny blade rubbing against his inner thigh and stabbing into the soil. It was only 3 centimeters away from his little brother. The cold metal clearly transmitted to his crotch. "I know that there is a secret door in the storage room. Tell me everything you know, or I will make you the first eunuch of the Germinal organization." Han Zhao's tone was murderous. Although the two of them did not know what eunuch meant, Han Zhao's actions showed what he was going to do. The two of them were shocked. "You? How do you know about the secret door?" "I am the one asking the questions." Han Xiao raised his knife and slid the blade against the other person's private part. It was as if he was going to cut down at any time. The other person was so scared that he peed. He really peed. "My knife." The two of them were dejected. Since the secret had been found out, there was no point in hiding it. They told him the secret while trembling. 10 minutes later, Han Xiao frowned. "So that's how it is." Chapter 79. Dawn, the Secret Base. It was time to evacuate. The agents from both sides packed up and prepared to leave. Brother Xiao, where is he?" Lin Yao knocked on the door of the cargo compartment. He had been knocking on the door for 3 minutes, and the agents from Division 13 were getting impatient. "He doesn't seem to be in the car. Where did he go?" Li Yulin asked. Everyone looked at each other. Han Xiao had said that he would wait in the car, but now he was gone. "Where did he go last night?" Qi Baijia asked Zhang Wei's team, "What are you going to do?" "We will stay and wait for him to come back," Zhang Wei said. "Is that necessary?" Di Su asked. "The car keys are with him." Zhang Wei gritted his teeth. He felt that the veins on his forehead were about to turn into a dragon and fly away. Everyone's face twitched. They did not know if they were lucky or unlucky to have such a team member. Qi Baijia was unhappy. He hated all the uncertain factors in the mission. He thought that Han Xiao had a good grasp of the big picture, but now it seemed that he was blind. Team members who act without permission are all bastards. If something goes wrong, I will be the scapegoat. Scammer. On the other hand, the agents from Hesla noticed the behavior of the agents from Division 13 and discussed in secret. Someone from their team wants to stay. Didn't we agree to work together? Yi Fan frowned and went to ask Qi Bai Jia. After getting the answer, he returned to the Hesla agents and explained. Who is missing? It's the logistician with the mask. His name is Han Xiao. Oh, it's him. Winna's face suddenly tensed up. She said, when we received the information yesterday, Han Xiao denied us without any evidence. He disappeared at night and did not leave a message. He did not return the entire night. This is very suspicious. Could he be a spy? The agents from Hesla were stunned. Be careful with your words. Yi Fan frowned. He did not believe this speculation, but Han Zhao's behavior was indeed suspicious. He said softly, when we return to the base, we will report the situation to the commander. The agents left, leaving only Zhang Wei and his team in the base. Where did Brother Xiao go? Lin Yao could not help but ask. Li Yilin rolled her eyes. How would I know? He didn't say anything last night. Zhang Wei shook his head, feeling tired. That guy really doesn't have me in his eyes. A few hours later, the agents from both sides returned to the border. Winna and Yi Fan immediately reported to Carl. A Division 13 agent did not return for the entire night? Carl paced back and forth, his brows furrowed. Are you sure? Winna nodded. He left without saying a word last night, right after we found out about the Dark Crow Valley base. Yi Fan added, although it's suspicious, it doesn't mean he's a spy. Carl nodded slowly. I will verify this with Stardragon's people later. Let's talk about the intelligence first. Winna said, the captives we brought back have been put through a lie detector test. It can prove that everything they say is true. Yi Fan personally hacked into the enemy's network to gather this information. We can guarantee its authenticity. Carl's eyes were sharp as he said resolutely, then let's go to war immediately. Otherwise, the situation might change. Yi Fan hesitated for a moment before saying, if the army is deployed, the Division 13 agents who are still in the secret base will be in danger. Carl did not care at all. For the sake of our strategic goals, what's the harm in sacrificing 1 or 2 Stardragon people? If they're not from our country, their intentions will definitely be different. At the same time, Han Xiao took a huge detour and finally brought the 2 captives back to the place where he buried the toolbox. The journey was extremely arduous, and he was so tired that he almost vomited blood. These 2 burdens did not have environmental concealment suit. He spent a few hours to bypass all the security zones. Fortunately, these 2 captives were technicians who were in charge of adjusting the detectors and mines. They provided him with a lot of information. Otherwise, he would not have been able to leave so quietly. The 2 captives tried to trick Han Xiao a few times along the way. They wanted to deliberately lure him into the security zone and expose him. However, they were seen through by Han Xiao and were severely punished. Only then did they give up and obey obediently. At this time, the sun was hanging high in the sky. Han Xiao calculated the time and sighed. Not good. It's past the estimated time. I think the others have already left. He dug out the toolbox, took out a communication device, and contacted Zhang Wei. Hello, Jiang. I'm Huang He. Please reply if you can hear me. Huang, your *SS. Zhang Wei's exasperated voice immediately sounded in the earpiece. Where did you go? I didn't see you for the whole night. The others have already left. We can only wait for you at the base. That's right. You have to compensate me. I want new equipment. Li Yilin squeezed into the channel. Just by listening to her tone, Zhang Wei could imagine her pouting face. Why does she look so cute? Han Shao shook his head and said, I snuck into the Dark Crow Valley base and found a piece of confidential information. Zhang Wei's face turned serious. I'll help you contact Staff Officer Qi. At the border military camp, Qi Baijia received a call and asked, Zhang Wei, what's wrong? Is Han Shao back? He wants to talk to you. Qi Baijia said unhappily, then let him explain it to me. Han Shao entered the channel and said, I've found a secret. The Dark Crow Valley base is divided into an inner and outer base. The outer base is where the peripheral members work, while the inner base is where the core members live. The outer base is hidden deep in the mountain. The peripheral members don't even know about the inner base. The inner base is kept secret from all peripheral members. The inner base can be closed and blocked at any time. He interrogated the two captives and found out that the Dark Crow Valley base was divided into two layers. There was a deeper secret base hidden deep in the mountain where important resources were stored. That was the real core area. The base leaders did not disclose the existence of the inner base to the peripheral members. Most of the people in the base were also kept a secret. Even the players in his previous life did not know about the existence of the inner base. The inner base was connected to many evacuation routes. The core members could leave secretly. The locations of these routes were kept secret. Until the time of evacuation, no one knew which route the base leaders had chosen. Qi Baijia immediately understood the value of this information. If Hesla did not know about the existence of the inner base, they would be fooled into thinking that they had won when the outer base was breached. Then they would retreat. In reality, the enemy's core forces would be unharmed. The inner base would be preserved, and they could move back secretly in the future to make it a more secretive stronghold. Qi Baijia was secretly shocked. He did not expect that Han Zhao's unauthorized action would yield such crucial information. Ahem, although it was a good job, he still had to emphasize that unauthorized action was not a good thing to do. Wait for a while, I'll report to the commander immediately. Qi Baijia requested to see Carl, but he was stopped by the adjutant. He waited anxiously for 5 minutes before he was granted an audience. He walked into the office and found Yi Fan and Winna there. Carl glanced at Qi Baijia and asked, What's the matter? One of my team members has obtained confidential information. He needs to report it to you. Han Shao. It's him. Qi Baijia nodded. He did not notice that Winna, Carl, and Yi Fan were looking at him strangely. Carl's eyes flickered. Hence, Han Shao repeated what he said through the communicator and added, If we attack recklessly, we will only be able to destroy an empty shell. I hope that we can delay the operation and let our people find out the enemy's evacuation time and route. We can also figure out the structure of the inner base. When the time comes, we can directly intercept the enemy's retreating troops and avoid attacking the enemy's fortifications head-on. Carl was expressionless when he heard that. He suddenly asked, Where did you get the information from? I disguised myself and infiltrated the Dark Crow Valley base. I captured 2 of the insiders. Carl suddenly shouted, You're lying. From Carl's point of view, it was impossible for Han Shao to complete the infiltration even if he disguised himself. It would take at least 10 minutes to make a realistic human skin mask. He did not know what kind of enemy he would encounter, so it was impossible for him to make the mask in advance. It was a paradox. It was like Xiaoming climbed up a tree and realized that it was too high from the ground, so he went home to get a ladder and climbed down the tree. Han Shao was stunned. He then realized that these people did not know about the ability of the face simulator. The ability of the face simulator was his trump card. He would not reveal it, but that would not explain the details of his infiltration. This is my ability. Han Shao could only give an ambiguous answer. Unless you show it, it won't be convincing. Carl remained expressionless. He was secretly vigilant. Chapter 80. Han Shao furrowed his eyebrows. Do you have any evidence to back up your intel? Qi Baijia tried to help. Of course, he trusted Han Shao. However, Hesla was in a different position, and there was a crisis of trust between both parties. Han Shao paused for a moment. I have 2 captives. You can send them to the lie detector, and you will know that I am right. Carl narrowed his eyes. Bring them back then. Qi Baijia heaved a sigh of relief. Although he was curious about how Han Shao managed to infiltrate the base, he chose to believe that Han Shao had some special means. Fortunately, they had the captives as evidence to prove that Han Shao was not lying. After hanging up the call, Carl summoned his adjutant and said, "Pass down my order. Set off. Our target is the Dark Crow Valley base." Qi Baijia was stunned. This was different from what they had agreed on. Carl could not be bothered to explain. It would take a few hours for Han Shao to bring the so-called captives over. If Han Shao was late again, it would take even more time. If the Dark Crow Valley people took the opportunity to retreat, the army would not be able to make it in time. As a commander, he would not change his decision just because of some uncertain intel. He trusted Yi Fan's intel. There were witnesses, evidence, and reliable sources. Carl believed that even if Han Shao was telling the truth, there would be no loss in sending the troops ahead of time. Han Shao could still bring the captives over to join them. The difference was that sending the troops ahead of time would put the Dark Crow Valley base into a state of war, and Han Zhao's team would be in danger. However, what did the life and death of the Star Dragon agents have to do with him? Even if they died in battle, the higher-ups of Hesla would not pursue the matter. If Division 13 protested, there would be someone to stop them. Anyway, Han Shao had already provided him with information about the base. Carl did not care if Han Shao could prove it. As long as he could take over the Dark Crow Valley base, he would be able to follow this lead and verify it. Qi Baijia said angrily, "My men are still near the Dark Crow Valley base. If you attack without authorization, they will be in danger." Carl said calmly, "The opportunity is fleeting. We cannot delay it because of 1 or 2 agents. Since they are agents, they have to consider the big picture. I believe they will understand." "I don't agree," Qi Baijia said angrily. "It's not up to you." Carl pressed the bell, and a group of soldiers rushed in and pointed their guns at Qi Baijia. Carl said coldly, "Send Stardragon's friend to the car. We will depart together later. Remove all communication devices from them. I don't want them to contact anyone and reveal our whereabouts." He emphasized the word friend, and the meaning was obvious. Qi Baijia trembled with anger. "Sai, how did it end up like this?" Yi Fan was speechless. Han Zhao's suggestion was conservative, while Carl's suggestion was more radical. Both of them were not wrong, but Carl was the commander, and Han Shao was only a subordinate, and not a direct descendant of Hesla. Winna looked on coldly. After ending the communication, Han Zhao's face sank. He had a faint intuition that Carl was a more radical commander and would probably send troops ahead of time. This person is too eager for quick success. Han Shao sighed. He didn't have much time left. If he wanted to complete the mission, he had to rely on himself. Now, he only knew the existence of the inner base, but did not know the enemy's escape route and time. He needed more information, so he had to sneak in again. This time, he would use the identities of the 2 captives to enter the inner base. Han Shao was not going to do it himself. For the sake of his own plan, sneaking in again was not the best choice. The most suitable candidate was Lin Yao, a hacker who could infiltrate the enemy's network. He was like a computer virus that could disrupt the enemy's communication network at critical moments, rendering the enemy blind and deaf. In that case, he would need to create human skin masks for the 2 captives. There were molds and makeup tools in the big black cargo compartment, so the disguises could be completed in an hour or 2. With that in mind, Han Shao forced himself to stay alert. He used up all his remaining energy and dragged the two captives forward. In the afternoon, they returned to the secret base. The team members who were waiting for them there greeted them. "Are you okay?" Lin Yao hurried over to support Han Xiao, who was almost out of energy. Han Xiao shook his head. "There's no time to waste. Listen to me. Make the human skin masks for the two captives now. Lin Yao and Lambert will use their identity cards to sneak into the inner base. I'll tell you the details later." Lin Yao's face turned pale. Brother Xiao, I don't have any experience in espionage. Can we get someone else?" "You're a hacker. If you don't go to hell, who will?" Lin Yao was petrified. "Let me take the other spot," Li Yilin volunteered. Han Xiao glanced at her and shook his head without hesitation. Li Yilin was furious. "What do you mean? Are you looking down on me?" Han Xiao pointed at her chest. "Too big. It's hard to wrap my arms around it." Li Yilin was petrified. Lin Yao hurriedly grabbed Han Xiao's sleeve. "Brother Xiao, do you want to come with me?" he asked hopefully. "No way. It's so dangerous, such a simple mission. It's not challenging at all." "You've definitely exposed something," Li Yilin and Lin Yao roared in their hearts. "Let me do it then," Zhang Wei said. Han Xiao shook his head. No one can use the armor without you." "Oh right. You're still the captain. So you still remember that I'm the captain." Zhang Wei smiled bitterly. Ever since Han Xiao appeared, his position as the captain had become more and more like a figurehead. Han Xiao pointed at Lambert and said, "I've decided on you, the Lambert beast." Lambert was speechless. I'm dead meat, Lin Yao said in despair. Lambert was expressionless. He slapped the back of Lin Yao's head to express his dissatisfaction. "What do you mean by that? Am I so different from Han Xiao?" Everyone put on makeup for the two captives in the cargo compartment as they drove closer to the Dark Crow Valley base to save time. They parked the car outside the security perimeter. After more than an hour, Lambert and Lin Yao were done with their makeup. They looked exactly like the captives. With microphones in their ears, they held their ID cards and headed to the side entrance of the Dark Crow Valley base. "Brother Xiao, are you sure you can do it?" Lin Yao asked weakly through the earpiece. "Sincerity is everything." Lin Yao felt like he was going to vomit blood. He looked at Lambert and asked, "Uncle, aren't you afraid?" "For the sake of the mission, we have to try even if there's only a slim chance," Lambert said calmly. Han Xiao clapped. "Well said. You're very loyal." Lambert was speechless. When they arrived at the side entrance, Lin Yao was so nervous that his teeth were chattering. "Are we going to be exposed?" Lambert pressed on Lin Yao's shoulder and said in a low voice, "The more nervous you are, the more likely you'll be exposed." Lin Yao calmed himself down and swiped his ID card. The security guard opened the door. Seeing that there was no problem with the ID card, he stepped aside. The two of them followed the instructions and went to the storeroom. They found the ID card reader and used the ID cards of the captives to open the secret door, revealing a metal passageway. The passageway was very long. After walking for 10 minutes, they finally arrived at the inner base. The inner base was even more secure than the outer base. Computer screens were hung on the walls, and people were coming and going, carrying supplies and information. The two of them looked at each other. This time, they were really in the enemy's camp. Suddenly, an ear-piercing alarm sounded in the base, and the lights turned red. Lin Yao was scared out of his wits, thinking that they had been exposed. Lambert frowned and pressed down on Lin Yao's pale face. "Calm down, we didn't trigger the alarm," he whispered. The inner base members whispered to each other. "What happened? Is there an enemy invasion?" Ji Jie walked out with a calm face. "Everyone be quiet. Hesla's border troops are on their way to the base. The outer base's armed personnel are already on their way to the security perimeter. We'll be able to hold them off for a while. Prepare to retreat." Chapter 81. As expected, Karl did not choose to wait. Instead, he sent his troops ahead of time. Zhang Wei slammed the table and cursed, "Damn it! Brother Xiao, you helped them get the intel, but those people from Hesla don't care about our lives." Han Xiao, on the other hand, had expected this. His expression remained as calm as ever, which made the two of them wonder why he was so calm. Through the earpiece, he instructed Lin Yao and Lambert, "You two continue to hide. Remember to protect yourselves while carrying out the mission. We're leaving." "Understood." Zhang Wei and Li Yilin looked solemn. The heavy truck was not far from the Dark Crow Valley base. When the Dark Crow Valley was in a state of war, they would not hesitate to increase their defense. The tracks of the heavy truck would be discovered very soon. There was no time to waste. "Li Yilin, go and drive." Li Yilin was a martial artist, and she lacked long-range attacks on high-speed vehicles. She had no objections to this arrangement. Han Xiao and Zhang Wei stayed in the cargo compartment, and they had the ability to counterattack. Li Yilin did not care about hiding her track. She stepped on the accelerator, and the engine of the heavy truck roared to life. The tires kicked up a cloud of dirt as they started to move. Soon, a series of engine sounds could be heard from afar. Han Xiao looked out of the window and saw a large group of Germinal Organization's armored off-road vehicles chasing after them. The headlights of the pursuers appeared in his field of vision. There were more than 10 of them, and they were equipped with mounted machine guns. "We've been discovered." Zhang Wei's heart sank. Han Xiao did not care about the bumpy ride of the heavy truck. He opened the weapon box and started to prepare his weapons. A chase was unavoidable. "Yilin, drive faster," Zhang Wei shouted. "I know." Li Yilin bit her lips and kept changing gears to increase the speed. The engine of the heavy truck was at full power, and it let out a beast-like roar. The huge anti-skid tires left deep ruts in the forest. The mountainous terrain was undulating, and the dirt road was rugged. Even though the chassis air spring suspension was able to reduce the vibration of the wheels time and time again, the car was still very bumpy. Han Xiao looked out of the cargo compartment's window. The Germinal Organization's armored off-road vehicles were getting closer. "Can't you go a little faster?" Zhang Wei urged. "This is a heavy truck, not a sports car." Li Yilin was exasperated. Han Xiao suddenly said, "There are 4 buttons next to the gear. All of them are nitrogen accelerators." "You installed a nitrogen accelerator on the heavy truck?" Li Yilin was stunned. Then she became excited and was about to press the button when Han Xiao hurriedly stopped her. "We're in the forest now. Aren't you afraid that the car will crash? Wait until we reach the plains before speeding up." Da-da-da-da-da-da. The heavy machine guns on the dozens of off-road vehicles opened fire. The muzzles spewed out thick flames, and the bullets chased after them. The distance was long, so there was no accuracy to speak of. However, the range of the firepower was very wide. Trees were cut down one after another, and the stray bullets created countless sparks on the exterior armor of the cargo compartment. Li Yilin glanced at the rearview mirror, and in the next moment, the rearview mirror was shattered by a stray bullet. She cursed under her breath, and maneuvered the heavy truck around the trees to avoid the bullet. The truck became very bumpy, and even her but hurt from the jolting. The cargo compartment was even more chaotic, and the components were flying everywhere. Han Xiao hurriedly used the lock to secure the various equipment and weapons boxes. 2 bound captives were huddled in a corner, shivering. At dusk, the setting sun was as red as blood. Dozens of armored off-road vehicles were chasing after a black heavy truck. The heavy truck was running for its life, and the pursuers were chasing after it. Bullets were fired, and the sound of gunshots echoed through the forest. The sound of the engines of so many vehicles mixed together like a mad dragon, cruising through the forest at high speed. Even the wanderers in Crow Forest Town could faintly hear the movement, and they all looked at the source of the sound in shock. Closer and closer. Closer and closer. Suddenly, a heavy truck rushed out of the forest and into Crow Forest Town. Like a rampaging rhinoceros, it crashed into a small building, and directly smashed the building into ruins. The front of the truck was clearly deformed. The heavy truck roared through the streets, and the wanderers on the street were horrified. They quickly rolled and crawled to hide. When the heavy truck passed by, they finally dared to look at the back of the heavy truck, and their faces were filled with horror. Before they could start to talk, more off-road vehicles rushed into the town, and a large number of buildings were destroyed. Crackling sounds could be heard, and ruins were everywhere. A rain of bullets flew, and a large number of wanderers were killed by stray bullets. Screams filled the sky, and the ground was dyed red with blood. The last glimmer of twilight faded away. When night fell, the heavy truck finally rushed out of the edge of the forest and came to a flat plain. The lights of the pursuers connected into a light dragon, cruising on the vast plain. The muzzles of the guns and cannons became the eye-catching light source. On the plain, it was easier for the off-road vehicles to catch up. The distance slowly closed. 600 meters, 500 meters, 400 meters. Zhang Wei, change into your armor. Zhang Wei was shocked. He had already changed into his armor in advance. When he activated it, he immediately felt the changes after the modification. With the endoskeleton providing power to move, he finally did not need to use much energy. Furthermore, his vision turned into an analysis interface, and a series of battlefield data appeared. It could even assist in aiming. Zhang Wei was pleasantly surprised, and his eyes widened. So strong. Han Xiao was putting high-explosive sniper bullets into his anti-material rifle. Hearing this, he said calmly, "This is just the most basic modification." Zhang Wei only had one thought at this moment. 360,000 yuan was really worth it. Ding ding dang dang. The sound of bullets hitting the heavy truck became more frequent. "Return fire!" Han Xiao roared, and Zhang Wei kicked open the door of the cargo compartment. Zhang Wei's field of vision suddenly opened up, and the helmet blocked his ferocious expression. He raised both of his hands, raised the large-caliber triple-barreled machine gun, and opened fire with a roar. 2222, the high-frequency gunshots were deafening, and the thick gunfire crazily spewed out. The bullet shells were automatically thrown out and fell to the ground. The large-caliber bullets were like rainbows crossing the sky, dragging flames behind them as they shot into the armored vehicles. Boom! The bulletproof windows of the two off-road vehicles were shattered, and the people in the vehicles were shot into sieve. Two long chains of ammo were attached to the outside of Zhang Wei's thighs, and they were dragged all the way to his back, filling up an entire box. These were all ammo that Han Xiao had prepared for him, enough for the battler armored prototype to unleash its firepower. Dozens of armored off-road vehicles hurriedly spread out in formation to avoid Zhang Wei's strafing fire. At the same time, they returned fire with their mounted machine guns. However, Zhang Wei stood at the door of the cargo compartment in his armor. The external armor was mixed with platinum alloy by Han Xiao. The bullets hit his body, and the durability dropped very slowly. Zhang Wei even held the hexagonal shield on his back in front of him to block the bullet. Most of the bullets were blocked by his reef-like body. Han Xiao raised his sniper rifle and fired one high-explosive bullet after another, setting the pursuing vehicles on fire. The enemy drivers were caught off guard, and the flames burned the internal engines of the off-road vehicles. One by one, the vehicles were turned off. However, more off-road vehicles quickly closed in, and the external armor of the heavy truck was densely filled with bullet holes. This distance was enough. Han Zhao's eyes flashed, and he threw away the anti-material rifle. He took out the weapon box that contained the bamboo dragonfly version of the delayed high-explosive grenades and threw them out like they were free. The grenades flew close to the ground, and they just happened to fly under the chassis of the off-road vehicles and exploded. Boom! The armored off-road vehicle was lifted from the bottom by the explosion. Under the kinetic force of the remaining momentum, it flipped forward in the air and rotated 180 degrees before hitting the ground with its top. The fuel tank was ignited, causing a second explosion, and all the people inside were killed or injured. The kill notifications on the screen were crazily refreshed. Every time he flipped over an SUV, he would be able to kill at least 4 to 8 enemies in the vehicle. Coupled with the experience gained from destroying vehicles, a single vehicle would give him 5,000 to 7,000 experience points. This made him even more excited to blow up an SUV. The prepared grenades finally came in handy. Screams rang in his ears. Han Shao hurriedly came back to his senses, and his heart sank when he saw that 2 captives had been killed by stray bullets. The captives are dead. The firepower of the pursuing off-road vehicles became sparse, and the people in the vehicles were scared out of their wits by the firepower of the heavy truck. A single heavy truck had destroyed more than 20 of their armored vehicles. It was simply appalling. Li Yilin suddenly became excited. "I see Hesla's army." Han Shao looked out of the window. Under the night sky, a large number of Hesla's military vehicles appeared in front of them. They were moving slowly, and their lights were brightly lit. Reporting to the commander, there is a small group of troops exchanging fire in front. Carl looked at the video feed inside the command vehicle and was shocked by the scene in front of him. More than 20 armored off-road vehicles were chasing after a heavy truck that was riddled with holes. Looking from afar, they left behind a trail of overturned off-road vehicles that were burning fiercely, like continuous beacons of war. Carl was bewildered and uncertain. The firepower of this team of Division 13 agents was ferocious. It was rare to see a team of agents with such strong combat power. Their firepower was comparable to that of a modern army, and they were small in number and agile in movement. This kind of team was usually the trump card. He suppressed the shock in his heart and squinted his eyes. Yi Fan, Winna, and the rest also saw this scene and were shocked. A single heavy truck withstood the firepower of an entire convoy and killed half of the pursuing soldiers. What kind of firepower was this? That heavy truck has been hit by at least 1,000 bullets, and it is still moving. That heavy truck must have been specially modified. They saw with their own eyes that a grenade had struck the armor of the heavy truck. However, the armor of the heavy truck was only slightly deformed. If it had been a normal vehicle, it would have been blown up into the sky. What kind of metal was that? It was too hard. Even the members of Division 13 were dumbfounded. When did Zhang Wei's team become so strong? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.